now revealed himself openly and without question. An African president has now revealed himself openly and without question as a French puppet for the entire world to see. And while much of Africa's focus is on the new military coup unfolding in Guinea-Bissau, a separate Western-backed coup has quietly reached completion in the background. It's happened right now, even while this new crisis in Guinea-Bissau plays out. In this video, we will expose exactly who this puppet is, how.
All right, folks. Once again, this is Frank. The show going to start at 1, let's say 12 p.m. Sorry, I was about to say 1 p.m. But the show going to start at 12 p.m. However, let me say something about this video that I'm about to show, right? This video is not specifically talking about the Guinea-Bissau president. So this video that I'm about to play, as you see on the screen, is talking about the Gabon president. But he's also making reference to the Guinea-Bissau president because he himself, he does not know or the magnitude or the understanding of the coup that happened in Guinea-Bissau. But I'm the one going to explain to you about the coup that happened in Guinea-Bissau. You know, how it came about and why it came about and who were the people behind the coup, all right? But let me just give you the hint. So as you see on the topic there, on your dashboard, it says Guinea-Bissau, a Western-backed coup, all right? Guinea-Bissau, a Western-backed coup. Listen, folks, you know, like I said, right, and we've been saying, on this platform, WCC, we do not talk about a topic or an issue if we don't fully understand, all right? If we don't fully understand the situation or the case. Now, in the same way, when the issues in Gabon, the coup in Gabon happened, and people were rejoicing, people were happy, people were jubilating, right? And the thought or the fear that the coup in Guinea, let's say in Gabon, was the same as the coup in Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. It was on this very same platform that we came and said, no, the coup in Gabon, it is not the same as the coup in Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso. It was on this platform we came, we said the coup in Gabon was planned by the West, along with ECOWAS, along with AU. It was planned. It was on this platform. And again, it became truth that what we said, that people did not understand, and they feared that it was the same coup that happened in Gabon was the same as Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. It was on this platform again. We came, we said, no, it is not the same. The coup in Gabon was planned by the West along with AU and ECOWAS. Now, once again, another one has happened in Guinea-Bissau. So we are here again to tell you what happened in Guinea-Bissau and who was the people behind it, who were the people behind it, and how did it come about, and the reason it came about. We are here to tell you whether it's a coup like Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. That's what we are here to tell you today. Whether it's a coup like the Gabon, that's why we are here today. But I'm playing this Gabon video so that you can have a picture or a clear understanding of where we are going today. This is WCC. Once again, pay attention, listen. I mean, as you come on, what are you waiting for? Share, like, hit the notification button so that anytime we go on live, you're going to get the signal. All right, this is a platform that never, ever, give you an information of opinion. All right, so we try our best and put the information together to bring it to you. Once again, this is WCC. I am your host, Frank Malba. Watch.
We know he's backed by the French, and why this moment should force all of us to pay attention to these military coups across the continent. If you care about uncovering who is pulling the strings and manipulating Africa from the shadows, then this video is for you. If you don't know me, my name is TJ. I'm Nigerian and British mixed, and on this channel, we talk about African geopolitics. So like many of you, I've been paying close attention to the military coup happening.
Brother, those hair vitamins you're taking, they're for 25-year-old white boys, not 45 plus.
In Guinea-Bissau. I've been searching online for details, trying to understand who might be behind it and what direction the country might be heading in. Many Africans are hoping it will resemble the same kind of military takeover we saw with the AES countries, where leaders took bold steps to push back against the French and Western domination. Those countries are still fighting destabilization efforts right now, funded and encouraged by the same external powers who want regional control. But in the case of Guinea-Bissau, the military leaders have not made their intentions clear. There are hints about foreign actors, but that could refer to countries or cartels, considering all of the narco activity that that country is famous for. And yes, it could very well be foreign governments. It could be France itself, but nothing has been directly stated, and there's no evidence for us to really understand just yet. So before we celebrate anything as a victory against neocolonialism in that country, we need to wait and see exactly how things develop. Remember, even though Guinea-Bissau was colonized by Portugal, it still uses the CFA franc, the French-controlled currency that has kept many African countries trapped in economic dependency. So like I said, I was researching the situation in Guinea-Bissau, and in my feed came this video. This video clip shows the president of Gabon, Brice Nguema, smiling and speaking warmly, schmoozing, you might say, with Emmanuel Macron. They talked about the youth in Africa, partnership, cooperation, and the future of the continent. The exact words, well, I'll leave that for you to go and do your own research. It's not really relevant to what I'm talking about here. The fact is that they were together, and where this meeting took place is way more significant. You see, the meeting took place just a few days ago during Macron's state visit to Gabon. And this state visit was presented with enormous fanfare. It was basically a Gabon-France public summit. And for me, all this moment symbolized was the final victory declaration for France. It was a public confirmation that the Gabon coup, which many hoped would be an anti-neocolonial event, was instead delivered to a new leader who openly opened the doors of France to secure its influence under a new regime. In other words, a new puppet has finally been inaugurated. Maybe we could call it the consummation of the relationship between France and this new regime. Now, I've got to give a little credit here, because when the military coup first happened in Gabon, the first person I heard sounding the alarm that this may not be what it appears to be was the YouTube channel, The Merc. See, at the time of the coup, the leader, Ali Bongo, who had a long and public history of corruption, misappropriating funds, and enriching himself and his family, including his wife, who was tied to shady deals with France, French corporations, and questionable contracts. So removing Ali Bongo made a lot of sense. But that did not automatically mean sovereignty was restored. Why? Because it turns out, as pointed out by the Merc, that Brice Nguema is not an outsider. He's actually Ali Bongo's cousin. He grew up in the same system. He served under the same power structures. Many of you have dropped comments asking how you can support this channel, even offering to donate or help financially. Until recently, I had no way to make this possible. But now through my Substack, it's never been easier for you to lend me some support. There's a free tier where you'll get 1 email per week, and for just $5 a month, do you get demonetized, and there's message. So with email backing us up, we can communicate directly. Thank you in advance. He held an election to legitimize himself. He won the people over. You may remember his viral dancing video during his election campaign. Once elected, his inauguration was full of powerful African cultural imagery and traditional pomp and ceremony, reinforcing the idea that he was Africa first. But then came the warning signs. The 90+% election victory
Here's what nobody's telling you about the new bearskin hoodie. This fleece is thick. It's made from 340 GSM of bear.
Was simply not.
All right, once again, right, as the narrator said in this video, there's a reason why folks I play some of these videos before the show can start. Is because I want you to pay attention to get certain things, right? So, as the narrator said, you saw this individual dancing, doing all kind of a traditional, performance and those things. And then henceforth, they went to elections, right? And then he got 90+% of the vote. Listen, folks, are you telling me there was no opposition? There was no other person that ran with him? There was no other opposition party that ran with him? And he went and won an election with 90+%. Are you kidding me? Folks, what are you seeing on the African continent? What did you see in Tanzania? The same thing. This lady. And let me say this, folks. I know it's going to take much of our time, but let me say this. This notion of bringing in Western ideas, inclusion, and let me say this, female, don't come for me, right? But it is the truth. We need to have inclusion. That is, we need to have female participation, which is not a bad thing. But listen, folks, for me, I believe we have to get away with those Western mentality, those Western ideology. It's all fake, right? Whether female or male, we need people into position of power. We need people on our continent. We need people in our various nations that will represent the people. Not that Western mentality, we need inclusion. Like I'm saying, right? Whether male or female, we need people who understand our struggle. We need people who understand the African history. We need people who understand the Black man history, the Black man struggle. If we do not have people in power who understands the Black man struggle, regardless whether you can have female participation of equality to male participation, is not going to solve our problem. I don't care. You can have the best female brain in power. I don't care. You can have the best male brain in power. If those females and males do not understand the purpose, the struggle of Black people, what we need, folks, is going to be cost 90. Take your calculator and then plug cost, COS, and then 90 is going to give you 0. So cost 90, it just means 0. Those of you who know calculus, right? So I don't care how you can have the best female educator, right? Or male, whatsoever. If those leaders, those people do not understand what Africa needs, do not understand the African people enemies, it's 0. All right? Like I was saying, the Tanzanian president, Suluma or whosoever they call her. Oh, she's a female, we need a female participation, she's a mother, all those things is BS. We need to get away with Western mentality, inclusion. Now, that is not to tell you like I'm against inclusion. What I am against is putting both male and female in power of African leaderships who do not understand the African man's struggle, who do not understand what the African man's need, who do not understand what an African child needs. That is why I'm against. So you heard what the narrator said. When Alio Bongo, not Alio Bongo, but the man who succeeded Alio Bongo, they went for elections. He came in as military coup. And then they went for elections. And then he won 98 or 90+% vote. If to say there was no opposition in the country. Now, what am I going to? Folks, there's a new trend on the African continent. There's a new trend. You know, when these Westerners, Europe, including the United States, after they enslaved Africans, then they went back on the African continent. They colonized the African continent. They divided Africa among themselves. And then there came a time period. African decided, right, to fight for independence. And then during that time period, what did we see? We saw directly Europe and America killing African leaders. Leaders who wanted betterment. I mean, leaders that you think the United States would even work with, Europe would even work with. Leaders who believe in democracy just like how the United States, so to speak, believe in democracy. Leaders who believe in human rights, rule of law, right? Just as, so to speak, Europe believe in rule of law and human rights. But what happened? Directly or indirectly, the United States and Europe killed, slaughter, unalive those leaders. And then what happened? The United States and Europe, what did they do? They supported dictator. Then they supported Coup, that the honor man that they partook in on the African continent. Right? Now, during that time period again, if leaders like Nkrumah, leaders like Amiga Cabral, and the list are there, you know them. I don't have to name them, you know them, right? Those leaders had great vision for Africa. Just how, in quote, the United States think she loves Africa. Just how, in quote, Europe think they love Africa. There were leaders who came on the African continent who love Africa, just how the United States thinks she loves Africa, right? Just how the United States have made you think she loves Africa, or Europe have made you think she loves Africa. Those great leaders came. Who undermined them? The US. Who undermined them? Europe. Some of them were unalive. Some of them were forcibly removed from power. And then puppet government went in. We saw those things, and those time period passed. Now, some of those leaders who refused again, sanctions were put on their nation, not because they did a bad thing, not because they were against humanity, not because they were ill-treating their people, that the United States, so to speak, the war police wanted, to speak for those African lives and things, not because of that. Only because some of those leaders said no to American interests over their nation or national interests. Sanctions went on those nations. America did not care about human rights, about the people that live in that place. America did not care that if we put sanctions on this nation, what about the citizens? Because at the end of the day, the people in power, it will not affect them. It will not affect them. And in fact, what then going to happen, the people in power, they're going to stay in power. Like we saw in the case of Robert Mugabe. To the extent even Africans did not understand. Some Africans, they start blaming Robert Mugabe. Do you think Robert Mugabe will leave power? They already put sanctions on him. Europe does not already like him. The US does not already like him. The NATO nation does not already like him. If Robert Mugabe leave from power, well, I mean, let's say if Robert Mugabe, if somebody like Robert Mugabe leave from power now, what will be the protection of Robert Mugabe or someone who may behave like Robert Mugabe? What will be the protection of them? Absolutely, there will be no protection because you know what? The United States does not like him. Europe does not like him or her. So if he or she leaves power, where will he go? He will never come to the US. He will never go to Europe because that enemy ship have already been there. He will not come there. So it forced people to stay in power. That's why Robert Mugabe said, okay, that's how y'all want to play the game. I am fighting for my country. I am fighting to give back land to my people. And then this is how you want to play the game. So let's play it. So it forces people to stay in power. And then he put sanction. So that's how Robert Mugabe stayed in power. What did you expect for Robert Mugabe to do? Because if he was going to leave power and then an American puppet or Euro puppet come in, What will be the protection for Robert Mugabe? There will be no protection. And then at the end of the day, still, how to call it, the country that Robert Mugabe served, Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe was not still going to go anywhere. Because at the end of the day, foreign interest was going to be served. At the end of the day, regardless of what, the resources was going to be proliferated out of the country to Europe and America. And poverty was still going to be there. So Robert Mugabe looked at it and said, BS, I will just stay. If my people understand, no problem. If they don't understand, no problem. If they make it seem that I hate my people, no problem. If my people think that I'm a dictator, no problem. But the truth is, Robert Mugabe was fighting for himself. So he had to stay there. And that's what happened. And now after Robert Mugabe died, they said sanction was all Robert Mugabe. The US put sanction on Robert Mugabe. Europe put sanction on Robert Mugabe or Zimbabwe because of Robert Mugabe. But Robert Mugabe, he died, dead a long time ago. Years past now. What have the US or Europe still have the sanction on Zimbabwe? That was not because of Robert Mugabe. Are you getting it? So now, all of those things we see. So the new pattern of neo-colonialism. Look, folks, even though Nkrumah said neo-colonialism is the last stage, but folks, we Africans were not just sent. And they say, oh, Nkrumah said neo-colonialism is the last stage. If we sit, it's not going to happen. If they say the black man in the US sat, right, and just watch and say, you know what, freedom is going to come, I can tell you, there would have still be slavery today. Slavery would have still be going on today if they was never going to fight. If the black man in the US was never going to fight, there was never going to be like Amendment 15. It was never going to happen. Because even as we speak, slavery did not end. Slavery did not end in the US, which is in their constitution. Which was replaced with the prison system. So when you read it, it will tell you that it did not end. But that will be discussion for another time. That is not a discussion today, right? But I'm just telling you how gradually these things have been playing. These guys are sophisticated, right? So what you see on the African continent is the new pattern of neo-colonialism. What's going to happen now is, folks, these people understand. Look, these people understand that the mistake to them. I'm not saying that what happened in Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso was a mistake. But to them, it was a mistake. They did not see it coming. So the new pattern of what is about or what is going on the African continent now, right, was what you saw in Gabon. Now, America, Europe, or France, they all understand that most of these African leaders, the people do not like them. The people do not like them because most of those African leaders are not serving the interests of the people, which the US know, which Europe know. Europe and the US, they already know that most of those African leaders only there to protect the interests of Europe and America, and their people despise them, and their people want them out. They know that, right? So they see it. So what they do, what they are doing now is, if it come to a point, right, like how we saw Guinea, they call it Gabon, this guy was in power to the extent he was paralyzed. In fact, not paralyzed, he has stroke. Imagine, this man left in power until he got stroke. He was old now, right? Nothing to do. So they planned a coup where his own bodyguard, family member, put in power to protect the legacy, to protect their income, to protect the US interest, to protect European interests. Because they knew if opposition was going to win that election in Gabon, because the time period we are talking about, it was election time. So AU sat down there along with ECOWAS, the US and Europe, and planned a fake coup We came out here after we did our research, tried to put things together. We came out here while people were jubilating, thinking that it was the same as Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso. We came and said, no, it's fake. These people are behind it. It's not a real coup. Now, after war, what did we see? AU being a puppet, right? AU being a puppet, then AU suspended Gabon so that we can think that, it was a coup. Because the reason to that too was to make Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso to turn back from military rule to civilian rule, so-called civilian rule, so-called civilian rule, so-called democracy, so-called constitutional rule. And that's the same thing they have done with Guinea-Bissau. What you saw in Gabon is the same thing they have done in Guinea-Bissau. And we're going to explain that to you today here. Because we have put the pieces together and we have come to the conclusion, the understanding. And I can tell you, nothing more, nothing less, what we are going to tell you. The same way we came, we explained to you about Gabon. And it came to reality. Guinea-Bissau is the same thing. It's the same thing. The same thing that happened in Guinea-Bissau. And then later, the military leader came and said, oh, you know what, we got to have election because everything was already planned. Because at the end of the day, right, folks, listen to this. Those election commission, look, let me say this, folks. There's no democracy in Africa. We've been saying this, and we are still saying it. There is no democracy in Africa. None. There is no democracy in Africa. There have never been a democracy in Africa. And there will never be a democracy in Africa. And I said it before, and I'm saying it again. I don't believe in that thing called democracy. What I believe in is what's going on in Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso. I call such government democracy. Because that's why I keep saying we have to define democracy in our own perspective. Not those Western democracy form of government by the people, of the people, for the people, for the people, these are people, these are people. Those are all BS. What is going on in Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso is democracy, which we have to define according to our struggle. We Africans cannot define democracy based on American struggle, based on European struggle. We cannot. Their story is different from African story. Their struggle is different from African struggle. What they fight for as freedom is different from African freedom. Because what they see as freedom, what we see as freedom, they do not see it as freedom. What we see as freedom, they see it as issue to their survival. What we see as freedom, they see it as issue to their economic empowerment. So what we see as freedom, they do not see it as freedom. So that is why their story are different from our story. So we cannot take the equation they use for their survival. We cannot use our same equation for our survival. That is why we keep getting it wrong. Because the formula in which they use, we cannot use it because their stories are different. Their struggle is different from our struggle. Their needs and wants are different from our needs and wants. So that is a new trainer. So when I do that, because they know that, right? So look, these people, they play on our intelligence and on our emotion as well. They know that, okay, Africans have come to understand military coup is the answer. Because they know that, we know that, most of these African leaders are Western puppets. We don't like them. We despise them. We want them out. They know it. So they know that, right? The language of the young African now is coup. So what they do here is they go and stage a coup. They go and stage a coup. And then remove the person to whom we think we don't like. And then they use that military means to come. And then afterward, they say, oh, then now Europe and America and AU will sit down now, right? For what AU will do with AU will then go and suspend that military leader. And then we think, oh yeah, AU is doing the right thing. And then you will see UN will then make a statement about that military leader. You know what? You need to tell the country back to civilian rule. The people need to do that. And then you would think UN is speaking in your favor, though. You think so? You would think that. But it's all planned. And then you will hear America making her own statement. Oh, we believe in democracy. You need to turn the country over to constitutional rule. You need to turn the country over to a constitutional rule. First of all, why did it happen in the first place? And then you will see them making that statement. And then now you will think, oh, yeah, it's true. Then before you make up your mind, they go set up election. It's all game. That is the new form of neo-colonialism coming on the African continent, because they already know the youth of Africa now just want military rule and to get out these people. They already know. They have listened to our words, our languages, our behavior, our attitude. Look, the US already know how African youth think about her. Europe already know how African youth think about her. Her involvement, directly or indirectly, systematically on the African continent. They know these things. They see our action, our attitude, and they know that the US know. Washington DC know the youth of Africa is angry with her. But she does not care though. She's going to play her game on our intelligence, on our emotion of what we think we believe in. It's militarism. Of military coup, they come and remove these people, and then military rule continue. But when these people come in, it was planned. It is planned. Then they will make statement, put it back to democracy rule, put it back to constitutional rule, put it back to surveillance rule. And then they go for election, boom. This person won, 98%. That's what happened in Gabon. 90+%. You have to say there was no opposition. The same people, the same family. And then before we know what happened, France was still present in Gabon, doing the same thing. Come on, my guy. It's the same thing that happened in Guinea-Bissau. The people did not like the president of Guinea-Bissau. The people wanted the president of Guinea-Bissau out. They didn't need him. So the Western world, these Western nations, based on their interests, they couldn't allow that. They sat down, planned a coup. And that's what's going to be going on in most African nations now. So we're bringing it out so that you can know. We're bringing it out so that you can know. Election is going to take place. But once they know the election did not go or do not go in the interest of the seated president that is protecting the interest of the West, and then coup going to take place. And you see, that is why I'm against African military going overseas for trainings. So what you saw happen in Guinea-Bissau, it is because these Guinea-Bissau military, well, most of them were trained outside of the nation. Basically, you are the soldier of those nations. You see, and that is why the AES nation said, no, we do not want these neo-colonialists training our army. We ourselves will train our army because the army have a code that nobody should know about. Are you getting me? So that is what happened in Guinea-Bissau. It was not a coup for the interest of the people. It was staged because the people were fed up with the president there. And the new government that was coming in, the opposition, Never had contract with Europe and America or the West. No contract. And they were not in position to go and make new deal or new contract because they did not know whether it will even work or not. So they never wanted to go through that. So say Guinea, Equatorial Guinea, that's not Equatorial Guinea, but Gabon, say the Gabon situation worked perfectly. The Gabon situation worked perfectly. They decided that, okay, that's the new model we're going to take now. So instead of us going and killing them like the way they killed Gaddafi and many African leaders, what they're going to do, the same way they did it with Gabon, and the Gabonese president Aliou Bagon left, that's the same thing they're going to do with Guinea-Bissau. And that's what they did. And that's what they're going to do with other African nations, their election coming out. And I think we spoke about this, the Nigeria election. 2027 is a Nigeria election. And we talk about this, about Donald Trump going to free to fight for the Christian, this, that, and things. And we talk about it. It is not about what they say. No. And we talk about it here. And then we dive into the election as well, the Nigerian election 2027. And we told you why these things are happening, why they want to go there. And let me say that, folks, similar thing like they're going to happen in Liberia 2029, because 2029 is going to be Liberia election. Similar thing like this going to happen. But I will tell you, it will happen. If it will happen, it will not be as the same as Gabon. It will not go as the same as Guinea-Bissau. Because the circumstances are different. Guinea-Bissau did not go through war, past war. Gabon did not go through past war. So Gabon did not experience what Liberia experienced through 14, 15 years. Guinea-Bissau did not experience that too. So the Liberian experience is different. If there's an election and they go up to the election box to vote, what will happen if the current government in power loses the elections? He should leave. He shouldn't dare try to do anything, or even the US or ECOWAS or Europe shouldn't dare try to play it out for the military to come in. It's going to be bloody. I can tell you. Because at the end of the day, they are militant. That's why I said the Gabon situation was different. The Guinea-Bissau situation was different. Those people do not have ex-militant or militant or whatsoever. Liberia situation is different. It's different. Those people did not fight war. Liberia fight 14 years or 15 years war. Militants are there. It's different. There are people who are experienced when it comes to combat. There are people who are experienced already know how to use weapons. They are trained. They are there. So Liberia situation is different from Guinea-Bissau and Gabon. So if they try and go that route, it's going to be bloody. It's not going to end as the Gabonese or the Guinean, which is Guinea-Bissau. It's going to be different from that case. The Liberia situation will go back. Because, all right, we're not talking about Liberia today, but I'm just giving a hint. So that when the time comes, you will have a reminder that, oh yes, it was said. But we're not going there today. We will go there coming close to the elections. But I'm reminding you. So that's a new trend happening on the African continent now. Stage a coup, make it look like a coup, and then these Westerners will come and say, oh, democracy, or rule of law, or constitutional rule, or sovereign government. Meanwhile, a stage. And then they go for elections, and then they manipulate. They put up that same person who overthrew, who became, they will put that same person in power. They will put that same person in power. Because they fool you, they lie to you to make it seem that, okay, let's go to election. so that it will look perfect. You know what? So there will be no military rule. So let's go to election. But it's lied. It's not elections. That was not your vote that elected this man or elected that lady. No, it was not your vote. But they just lied to you that, you know what, let's go to election so that we will make it seem that, you know, okay, military came in, the military turned over the nation to the civilian or to the constitution or to the court, and then they went for elections, and this happened, and this person won. That's a new trend coming in now. And that's what happened in Guinea-Bissau. That's what happened in Gabon. Let's continue. We might take this video out.
Believable. The invitation to the White House raised questions when he returned wearing a MAGA hat, like some kind of victory parade. But despite all of that, we still couldn't confirm it until we saw further actions. And unfortunately, this meeting with President Macron in Gabon could have not confirmed it any more clearer. You see, Gabon and France have been treating Gabon like a strategic asset, just like they do throughout the rest of Afrika. During his visit, the two leaders discussed security cooperation, joint training, equipment programs, a 2-year defense agreement. France also announced a major contract through the French Development Agency to modernize Trans-Gabon Railway. Publicly, this is described as improving transportation and boosting economic activity. But the reality is that these railway projects have always served one purpose: to move raw materials from the interior of the country to the ports where they can be exported efficiently. These projects are extraction corridors, not development corridors, and nothing changes for the people of Gabon. And like I talk about all the time, controlling of the money is key. Nothing actually changes for the people of Gabon while the CFA franc is still the currency being used there, which incidentally, like I mentioned, is the same currency being used in Guinea-Bissau. Macron and Nguema also spoke about urban development, environmental protection, education, infrastructure, and modernization. All of it sounds good on paper, but let's be real. These are the same promises France has made for decades in Western and Central Africa, all over the continent, while maintaining its tight control over resources and currency. And all the while, the people do not progress, the countries do not progress, and the people still suffer. This is exactly why these military coups across Africa must be studied and understood carefully. They must be analyzed, because some are genuine struggles for sovereignty. Others are simply rearrangements of the same old system, just with new faces. Leaders like Traoré, Chiani, and Gota are still demonized years after taking power. They are criticized for not being democratic. They are criticized for removing Western influence. They are attacked in global media and targeted, like what we saw in the viral moment with Michael Langley as he was addressing the concerns that America could have in that region. Meanwhile, we never see that kind of criticism directed at the Gabon leadership, the coups that favor the West, because he has returned to the fold. He has accepted the rules of the global system that favors Western interests. Some leaders are punished when they resist neocolonialism, while others are celebrated because they submit to it. And it doesn't matter whether they came to power through a military coup or not. So never let that be the reason why a president in Africa is dismissed. We need to look at the relationships and the incentives of that leadership structure. This moment in Gabon reminds us that Africa's struggle is far from over. Even multiple decades after the end of direct colonial rule, the continent is still fighting the same battle. Whether it's in Sudan, Central Africa, East Africa, West Africa, or South Africa, the same extractive systems continue to operate through one system or another. And most of the time, it leads back to the West and America. Our responsibility is to name these patterns for what they are, expose the leaders who choose to serve foreign interests instead of the people of Africa. The only way the continent will ever be truly free is by understanding how these external powers adapt, how they reposition themselves, and how they use diplomacy, currency, partnerships, and all as tools of control. And that is why this moment in Gabon matters so much. It is a warning, it is a lesson, and it is a reminder Africa's liberation will require vigilance, clarity, and we can't just jump to the conclusion that because it might look like something we want, that it is something we want. I would love to know what you guys think about this. Have you been following this story? Please give me your thoughts.
At the sad history of Kenya. And today we'll look at the sad history of assassination of African leaders since the 1960s. Of course, there have been many assassinations, but some of them have stood out. The most memorable, of course, started in 1961 with the assassination of Patrice Emery Lumumba in Katanga. We now know, courtesy of Ludo de Vet and other evidence that is in the public domain, that the Belgians and possibly the Americans were intimately behind the assassination of Patrice Emery Lumumba. Of course, after Lumumba's death, and we will talk a little about why Lumumba was assassinated, we will remember the assassination in 1963 in Lomé, Togo, of Sylvanus Olympio, the first president of that country. After that, there were a series of assassinations. We'll remember the coup in Nigeria in the month of January 1966. We do not have the details as yet, but we saw the death of Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, who was then the first prime minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. On that night, of course, the death of the Sultan of Sokoto, Sir Ahmadu Bello. And it did not stop there. We saw once again in 1969, in the midst of the struggle for the liberation of Mozambique, the death of Eduardo Mondlane in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, when he received a bomb hidden inside a book. And Eduardo Mondlane's death was as debilitating as it was frustrating. And it did not stop there. Once again, in Guinea, in Conakry, we saw the death of Amilcar Cabral, who was then in the midst of the struggle to liberate Guinea-Bissau and Cabo Verde from the chains of Portuguese colonization. And it did not stop there. Later, we saw the death of the young Tiro Ngopotse, who was involved in the struggle in South Africa. And we saw other assassinations. Of course, we are familiar with the death of Samora Moises Machel. The jury is still out of who the prosecutors of his death were, but we know that his plane was brought down. And it did not stop there. The death of Omar Isidore Sankara in 1987 was also a death that debilitated the struggle which had just started in earnest in a country then known as Upper Volta, but whose name was changed to Burkina Faso. That death in Ouagadougou, we now know, could have been at the behest of France, and we know that there has been a successful prosecution of Blaise Compaoré, who we know was a comprador of the French. Much more recently, in the year 2011, the painful death of Muammar al-Gaddafi in the year 2011. Africa has seen assassinations. Kenya.
When you are looking at Burkina Faso, it's no longer a Sahelian project. It is now an African project because Africans have had enough. Africans are tired. You cannot keep taking our natural resources and tell us that the highest royalty paid to any nation in Africa on the natural resources is 5%. 5% royalty. How did I know? The former president of Gambia, Yahya Jammeh, was kicked out of office by the West because he said, I am not taking 5% royalty on the natural resources that are in the land of my fathers. They say, why? He said, how can you give me 5% royalty? Are we not supposed to have an agreement on how this is done? Are you not supposed to come into partnership and tell me what you bring to the table? I'll tell you, okay, I own this, you take this, I take that. No, you don't have that right if you are in Africa. They told him, Mr. President, you should be happy because the 5% we're offering you, there are only 3 countries in Africa that have up to 5%. The rest are lower. So Garland, we have less, which is why the president, the wife of the president of Sierra Leone, sitting president, was complaining. She just complained recently. The video went viral, and she was saying to everyone that, listen, we are given 0.0001% royalty on the gold. You know, Sierra Leone is a gold coast. It's a gold coast. But if you visit Sierra Leone today, it's like a pardon my language. Sierra Leone is a shadow. It's not even, you can't even find where to put your feet. So backward, so messed up, so devastated economically. But when you are looking at Burkina Faso, it's no longer a Sahelian project. It is now an
All right, folks, let's get into it. So today, right, as we have already explained later groundwork about Guinea-Bissau, about the new trend or neo-colonialism, right? Let me say that, folks. You see, like I was saying, like I said earlier, and let me repeat myself again. In Africa, we love to equip the formula of the Western world, right, to solve the African problem. Once you do that, or once we do that, it means we do not understand the African problem. We do not understand what we want to fix or what we really need. Now, I said something earlier on. I said, in Africa, it is not about inclusion. Let me repeat this. I mean, it's something very hard to digest or very hard to understand. It is. It is. And it is hard to understand based on where we went to school, based on what we read, based on your curriculum, and based on what you read outside of your curriculum. Because for some of us, what we know, we did not know it with the curriculum of the neo-colonialist, or let's say of the colonialist. No. What we know, and from the perspective from which we speak, from which we are coming from, we did not learn that based on Western curriculum. We learned it outside of Western curriculum. We learned it outside of the American educational system. Absolutely. This book, How Europe Underdeveloped Africa, we learned it on our own. We did not learn it with the American curriculum or within the American school system or the British school system. No. This book, West African Proverb, West African Proverb, or West African Proverb. We did not learn this in the American educational system, and we did not get this book within the American educational system or curriculum. Nowhere you will find it in a bookstore. Nowhere you will find it in the library. Nowhere. This book, written by Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, Handbook of Revolutionary Warfare. Handbook of Revolutionary Warfare. You will not find this book in the American educational system or in any American school. You will not find this book. So this book, we got it outside of the curriculum. All right. We have many of them here. I can't get to all of them, but I'm just telling you. So you can be educated. You can have, you can have all the awards, right? In the American educational system, the British educational system. But that doesn't mean you understand the African people struggle. That doesn't mean you understand what Africa needs. No, it's two different things. So, up to today, when I hear some Africans saying that our forefather sold us to slavery, when I hear some Africans says that our forefather gave our land to the white man, when I hear some Africans saying that our forefather did not fight for us, what comes to mind is, are you not still doing the same thing today? The same thing you accuse your forefather of. And let me say this. This is not only about the African continent. In the US here, in America, in the UK, black folks are still going against black interests. I think we have a lady from Nigeria, a Nigeria-born British in England. Oh my God. She have a position. Very prestigious position. But she is the one speaking against African. You see that? So this talks is not only about people on the African continent, they're everywhere. Are we not still doing the same thing today to ourselves, to our people? Because the reality here is, when you die, you become part of the ancestor. So the people that will live when you are gone, they will also say, our forefather did not fight for us. Our forefather saw us. Our forefather continued to get our mineral resources, our mine, and go to the white man. Our forefather. They will complain that our forefather did this to us because they continue to serve the interests of the same people that colonized us, the same people that enslaved us, the same people systematically that killed our great leader. How can our forefathers saw these things and they continue to serve the interests of the white man? Oh yes, you will be part of the ancestor too, and they will be blaming you. Folks, I keep saying this. Our forefather fought. We saw Yaa Ashetiwa. You know the story of Yaa Ashetiwa. She fought. You know the story of Queen Nzinga. She fought. Nkrumah fought. Sankara fought. Amilcar Cabral fought. Lumumba fought. Dr. King fought. Malcolm X fought. But who carried the story of those people? Who carried the story of those people? We carry the story. The white men don't carry, Europe don't carry, America don't carry the story of those people. Because those people, they believe in this. Europe does not believe in this. America does not believe in this. So they will not carry the story of those people. You see, those people believe in this. Europe does not believe in this. America does not believe in this. Those people believe in this. Europe does not believe in this. America does not believe in this. Trump does not believe in this. Biden does not believe in this. George Bush does not believe in this. Emmanuel Macron does not believe in this. Folks, the formula to which we can solve the African problem come from these books. The formulas are in these books. These books. Our forefather left them for us. So when you start blaming your forefather that they did not fight for you, it's because you betray yourself, because you're not reading these books. And I can tell you, if you give these books to some African, they will see it as nightmare. They will insult you. They will see it as nightmare. They will tell you, why are you reading this book? What is in this book? It is no longer happening. What in these books are no longer happening? Why are you reading these books? But guess what? Obama knows what is in this book. It is a solution. Biden knows what is in this book for African. It is the solution. George Bush knows what is in this book. It is the solution. Even the Queen of England, the so-called Queen of England, the so-called Prince of England, they know what is in this book. It is the solution for African problem. They know the equation for African problem are in these books. So let's read something here. For those of you that like to say, without Western education, Africa will not give her full potential. I say you are a liar. Right there, you deceive yourself. African, because it is because of Western education, Africa it is the way it is. We have our education, form of education. Africa was at the top. Europe went to Africa to learn. The so-called Alexander the Great was in Africa. There where he got his knowledge. People only go to where opportunity are. Because there was opportunity in Africa, Socrates went there. The same Socrates you can quote. He went there and learned. Alexander the Great went there. All these Greek philosophers, they went there and learned. People only go to an area where there are opportunity for better life and better understanding. It is the Western education that destroys Africa. It pollutes our mind. But let's get back to the Gabon situation. Because my point I was making, it is not about in Africa, our problem should be inclusiveness. And, if women get the same job, men get the same job. That's not it. Then why is the Kenyan president, Sululu, making mistakes? Just like her African male counterparts. Why is she not different from her African male counterparts? Why is she not different? Why is she not behaving like a mother? Why is she not behaving like Queen Nzinga or Ya Ashantiwa? Why is she not behaving like those people? But instead she is behaving otherwise. The African issue is not about inclusiveness, because men here, women should be here, men here, women should be here. No. It is about understanding what Africa wants, understanding the African struggle, the African child issues, who caused it. And that is why the Sahel nation understood. That is why they are different. Let's continue with Gabon issues. We are about to expose them today. This is WCC. And after here, whether you like it or not, that's it. We told you about Gabon, and that's it. And it came to be. In the same way, we are about to explain to you about Guinea-Bissau. We already told you the same thing about Gabon. That's what happened to Guinea-Bissau. We will not come here if we don't understand. We will not come here to give you anything of opinion. It is something that we have sat and analyzed it critically, put pieces together, and then see how it is being played. No straight. This is not of African. This is of the West and of the neo-colonialist. Let's read an article here. I have one article for you today. Now, let's read. It says, Guinea-Bissau, new military route, move to consolidate power after coup. It sounds great, right? You think it's Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, right? Oh, boy. I love Africa, man. Let's continue here. General Hatta Inter, that's his name, appoint new prime minister in growing condemnation of military coup in West African nation. Let's continue. Oh man, I love Africa, man. It's not funny, folks. Let's read. Sometimes we just laugh to show seriousness. Let's continue. Guinea-Bissau new military route has moved to consolidate power days after a coup deposed President Umaru Sissoco in Babola. In a decree on Friday, General Hatta Inter announced the appointment of Finance Minister Lester today. Oh my God. The appointment of Finance Minister Elijah Verara as the West African country new prime minister. Listen to this. In a decree on Friday, General Hatta Inter announced the appointment of Finance Minister. Finance Minister, folks, listen to this. That alone tell you it is the same government who have come to power. That alone tell, look, folks, we read this, we sat down, we analyzed it, we played video, right? And listened critically with our ears open, wide our minds. And then come to realize this was not a coup. Imagine the finance minister is appointed as the new prime minister. The finance minister is appointed as the new prime minister. Let's continue, folks. It's deeper than this. Look, AU is a disgrace. And the reason why I say AU is a disgrace, we will get to that, folks. Listen to this. Look, if you have never subscribe, man. Subscribe to the channel. If you have never share, hit the notification button. AU is a disgrace on the African continent. Let's continue. We will come to that about AU. For me, once I've been saying this. No African youth should embrace AU. I'm telling you this. AU should be dissolved in a minute. And let me say this. The next action we are about or we're going to take against AU is going to be one of their meeting or gathering they're going to have, whether in Ethiopia, Addis Ababa, or whether it's in South Africa, Johannesburg, or whether in Ghana, Accra. We will march on them. We will march on them. And that day there will be no meeting. We will be the one to hold meeting. We will host them that day. We will be the one to host them. Because it is a useless organization. It might have been important back then, but today it is useless. And as we know, it had been useless back then. It was useless. Because after the Monrovia meeting in 1965 or 1963, that was not fruitful as Nkrumah wanted it. That's how they went to Addis Ababa May 25th, Ethiopia. And the result of the May 24th or 25th in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, it is a result of what we are going through today with the AU. Had it been that they listened to Nkrumah, had it been that the Monrovia group listened to the Casablanca group, what we are discussing today, I believe we wouldn't have been here to discuss it today. Folks, AU need to be dissolved. And then this new generation come out with different AU. Let's continue to this. Let's continue. The people of Guinea-Bissau expect a lot. That's the military ruler talking now, right? Because after they appointed, you know, folks, these are all Sheri. These are all Sheri. How can the people of Guinea-Bissau expect a better leader at the same time you annul the final minister as the new prime minister? The finance minister as the new prime minister. Are they not the same people in government or in power? And then you say the people of Guinea-Bissau knew better. Let's continue here, folks. There's a lot of days. Be with me. Be with me, folks. The people of Guinea-Bissau expect a lot of their new leaders. Inter A, that's his name, Inter A, told Ted doing a brief swearing-in ceremony, saying he hoped the new military government and the prime minister will continue to work hand in hand. Now, folks, the new military government was or is, let's say was, because the old president is not in it now. He was a bodyguard, a special, a song, I don't know how to call it, to the president. So listen to this. The final minister is the new prime minister. And then the military leader who is in charge of the country was a right hand or immediate man to the government. Was this a coup? There's a more to this. Be with me, folks. We analyze these things. People are running away. We already analyze it and know where it's coming from. Be with me. Share, like, and subscribe. Let's go do it right now. This is WCC. We understand and we break it down for you. Let's continue. The final minister that worked in the government, right? He is a new prime minister. The right-hand man to the former president that they removed, he is the military leader. You call that a coup d'etat. Let's continue this, folks. Be with me. There's a lot to this. Be with me. Useless ECWA. And by the way, ECWA was on the scene. AU was on the scene. Oh, folks. Oh, my God. You want to call this a coup? Why AU was not on the scene, Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso? Why they were not there? Oh, my God. Africa, I love you. Let's continue. Both Inter-Aid, who was sworn in as Guinea-Bissau transitional president on Thursday, and third, listen to this. I close to Mbembola, the former president who was removed. Listen to this. Oh my God. Both Inter-Aid, who was sworn in as Guinea-Bissau transitional president, the military government leader, on Thursday, and T.E., that's his name, his last name, I also close to in Mbembola, the deposed president. These were all right-hand men working in a government or in Mbembola. Let's continue. There's a more to this. Be with me, folks. Be with me. Don't worry. Don't worry. Don't forget. When I get your popcorn and come, don't think about the time that we're going to spend here. Be with me. I'm the one talking, right? Just listen. Sit down. Relax. This is WCC. You're in a theater. We don't disappoint. Let's read. Previously served in his government. These leaders who are currently carrying on Guinea-Bissau, right? They previously served in the government of Mbembola and as the campaign director of Mbembola party in last Sunday. Listen to this, folks. Listen to this. These people who came into power, the finance minister and the military leader, a right-hand man, right, to the deposed president. They were on the campaign board. In fact, they served as campaign director. Oh my God. You see how this was played? These folks served as campaign director for the deposed president party, in fact, just on Sunday. And then before Wednesday, the coup happened. Let's continue to read. These people were campaign director for Mbembola party in last Sunday's presidential election. Let's read. Let's read. On this platform, we may not be a good reader, but we read with clarity. Let's read. Friday announcement came just day after military officers said they have taken total control of the country during a televised address on the eve of the expected release of provisional election result. Listen to this, folks. Maybe there is something you need to understand, or I might have to detail it. Yes, there is something deep in here, what I just read. Let me read it again. Then maybe I will try to detail it. English is not my language. I learned it to apply it. I learned it to communicate. It is not my language. So let me know if I try to detail it. Maybe I read it, I did not understand it, or my explanation may not be what I read, right? But let me know in the comment section. But I'm going to read it again. But it's deep. This was not a coup. It was plain. This was an election rig. They rigged the election. Folks, this is the new trend that is going on across the African continent. This is the new form because these people understand what African people are yearning for. So they know that, hey, once it's a military government, we say, yes, we need it. But folks, you have to understand before you rejoice. Let me read this again. Friday announcement came just day after military officer. Listen, day after they took over the government, right? The next day they came out. The military government, they then said they have taken total control of the country. A televised address on the eve of the expected release of provisional election result. Listen to this. Now, after the election, right? Election have taken place, the people have voted, and then the people are just waiting for the election result. Oh my God. Listen to this. It's not like election never happened, or it's not like the people did not go to the pool. Oh man. I said 2029, similar thing that they're going to happen in Liberia, but it will be different if it happened. It's not going to be silent. I'm telling you this. It's not going to be silent if this happens in Liberia, which is going to happen. Guinea-Bissau never had a meditan. Gabon, no meditan. Most of the people that don't know about guns. Unlike Liberia, the people know how to use gun. They fought war, and those people are there. People know how to use gun. And in Liberia, after the war, there was no healing. No healing. The people are still traumatized. No healing. No justice. Yeah. Look, I know what I'm talking because, when it comes to Liberia, I've been telling people, I'll be in deep sleep if you just wake me up. I understand the Liberian history. I have read and read, and I'm still reading. I don't think there's anyone in Liberia that can debate me when it comes to the history of Liberia. There are people, right? But I don't think you can debate the women. And I'm not boasting, for real. Don't think, oh, he's boasting, he's this. No. Because there is a lot. That country has suffered since 1822. That country has suffered. Let's continue anyway. It's not about Liberia today, but I'm just reminding people. Similar thing that they're going to happen in Liberia. But don't expect the outcome to be as the Gabon or the Guinea-Bissau. Because, amen. Let's continue. Let's go ahead. Let's stick to this topic. So, there was elections, right? There was election. Here you go. If they try this in Liberia, it's going to be different. The people should go for elections, and then on the eve or day for the election to be result to be announced. Oh my God. And then there's a military coup or takeover. Look, that military leader that will come over in Liberia, be careful. Anyway, I don't know. I keep saying I don't want to talk about it, but I keep going there. Listen to this, folks. There was an election here in Guinea-Bissau. It's not like there was no election. No, there was election. Peacefully. Oh, God. Folks, I get bored. I get tired. I keep hearing about we need to protect our democracy in Africa. I get bored and tired. I get frustrated. I keep hearing people talking about democracy is the way forward. I have to say it's a new thing that we are hearing. Wasn't this a democracy? Peacefully, the people went to the ballot box. Oh my God. So this is why you know, folks, the election was rigged. This is why you know the government in power, right, during the time of the election, lost the election. This is why you know the opposition won the election. Because had it been the government won the election, why would it be a coup? Now you understand what we're getting. Let me repeat myself. Maybe, like I said, I don't know. English is not my language. I got my language. All right? I got my native language. English is not my language. And I'm not proud me learning it. But again, in a world of the society we live in today, I have to learn it to communicate. So bear with me. Maybe I'm getting it wrong. Right? But folks, why will there be an election? And then the police station is closed, or police stations are closed. The last vote, 8 o'clock, pound, is closed. It's not like to say, oh, election was still going on, then the coup happened. No. Election was finished. Then, listen to this. The ballot boxes were all counted. The ballots were all counted. The votes, let me put it that way. The votes were all counted. Now, on the eve, let's say tomorrow, we are going to announce the election result. Oh my God. You call this a coup d'etat? Oh man, folks. Look, there's a new trend happening in Africa. And we African youth, if we don't stand up to this nonsense, neocolonialism, as Nkrumah said, will be the last stage. It's not going to be the last stage in any time soon. Why would there be a coup d'etat? The final minister that work in the government, the final minister that they appointed as the prime minister, work in our government, the final minister that they appointed as the prime minister was also served as the campaign, how they call it, director for the government that was deposed. Now, the military leader, right, was also a right-hand man to the deposed government. After the election is finished, the ballot box was taken, votes counted. Then tomorrow, time to announce the election. Then today, military take over. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? The election was rigged. The opposition won the election. The opposition won the election. But there's a deeper part to that. Be with me, folks. Let's continue. There is a deeper part to that. Let's read. Imambola had been seeking re-election. The deposed government, he has been seeking re-election. Again, his main challenger, Fernando Diaz, both candidates had declared victory. Both candidates had declared victory in advance of the result. In advance of the result, which have still not been released. So tomorrow, let's say today, right? Tomorrow the election results supposed to be out on Sunday. Then today, Saturday, I am jubilating as an opposition, or I am jubilating as the president, as the current president, right? I'm jubilating, I won the election. Then the opposition, on the other hand, is also jubilating, I won the election. Folks, let me ask you a question. Just because I'm jubilating and the opposition leader is jubilating, or the opposition party or or supporter are jubilating and my supporter are jubilating, does that entail in any way give a reason to carry on coup? And I'm asking, does that give any reason to carry on coup? Because the government is rejoicing, right? Not the government, but the candidate, because at that point he's a candidate, right? Is rejoicing. Then the opposition candidate is also rejoicing that I won. Does that in any way give a reason to carry on coup? No. If you ask me, I will say no. Now, then what gave a reason to carry on coup? If you ask me, I will explain. And now I'm about to explain. What gave a reason to carry on coup is, indeed, the opposition leader won the election. Indeed, the election commission was bought. Indeed, the election commission have communicated with Mimbola, the deposed president, and said, listen, opposition leader won. The votes are in. What then happened? Coup went on. And this was already planned. Listen, if opposition leader win, coup must go on. So the election commission, I believe, let me pull out one. I believe have communicated with the deposed president because it was already set what should happen. So I believe they were told, no, listen, count the ballot boxes, count the votes. But if they go contrary to what we want, this is what should go on. Just call or just, I believe that's what happened. There was call made and said, look, the result is the other way around. So, should we announce the result tomorrow? Or you want to go ahead? No, we're going to go ahead. Don't announce it. That's what happened, folks. But it's deeper to this. Let's continue. Oh my God. These people think they will lie to us, right? Let's read. Let's read. Regional and world leader. Now, this is where now US, Europe, United Nations, ECOWAS, AU, this is where now they are coming acting that they are ignorant. Because it is a plain thing. And the truth here is right. And the truth here is right. I don't want for people to think that, oh, AU suspended Guinea-Bissau or ECOWAS suspended Guinea-Bissau. So that means ECOWAS is neutral. No. No. ECOWAS is not neutral. That's the game. ECOWAS is only playing there because that is what within ECOWAS that if there's a coup, right? That nation should be suspended from ECOWAS until they can turn the country over to civilian government. And then before they can come back. But that doesn't mean ECOWAS is innocent of what went on in Guinea-Bissau. That's the game. You have to understand. Let's read. Regional and world leaders have condemned the military coup. You know, if they don't do this, right, what do you think will happen? People will start to question them. Oh, you condemn Burkina Faso, you condemn Mali, you condemn Niger. But why are you not condemning this? It's a game. It's a game. They are playing on our emotion. They are playing on what we want. It's a game. But I already explained to you here. You already know it's a game. It was not a coup. Let's continue. Regional and world leaders have condemned the military coup. One of Sarah in Guinea-Bissau since it gained independence from Portugal in 1974. Since Guinea-Bissau gained independence in 1974, there have been numerous attempts of coup, and they have never been succeeded. They have never succeeded, right? I think one of them was Amilcar Cabral that they killed. You see it? Let's continue here. Oh my God. Let's read. The African Union, the so-called African Union that was on the ground, that was at the scene. Let me read. The African Union announced on Friday it was suspending Guinea-Bissau with immediate effect. Like I said, don't fall for days. Do not fall for days. Do not fall for days. Do not fall for days. And that's why, it is there. They are just doing this because that's what is written there. But it is a game. It is a game. It is a game. After 1 or 2 months or 3 months, right, or 4 or 5 months, then they're going to come by and say, listen, Guinea-Bissau, we want you to turn the country over to civilian government so that they can go for election whatsoever. The same thing again in Gabon. And then they'll go for election, right? Then they'll go, you will hear say 98% vote, they won it. That's what's going to happen here. So don't fall for this. AU is useless. Let's read. The African Union condemned on Friday it was suspending, or announced on Friday it was suspending Guinea-Bissau with immediate effect shortly after the Economic Community of West Africa State. You see how two of them wrote it? Shortly after the Economic Community of West Africa State froze Guinea-Bissau out of all decision-making bodies. That does, look, it shouldn't move you. That's the game. That's the game. They are not innocent of what happened here. We know ECOWAS and AU, they are puppets of the West. They are managed by US and NATO. They are funded by US and NATO. Let's read. United Nations, you see right here, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres also condemned the same thing because they have to do these things. They have to do it to play their neutrality, but they are not neutral. It was all these people were in a nation. All these people were in a damn country when this thing happened. They are not neutral, folks. It is a game they are playing here. They have to add up, oh, they don't know about it. Oh, there's that. We know we're doing this, blah, 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 and stuff. But this was not a coup like Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. This was a coup backed by the West, supported by the West, influenced by the West. Let's read. The United Nations General Secretary Antonio Guterres also condemned the military unacceptable violation of democratic principle. Folks, look, I get frustrated when they talk about democracy. I hate to hear that word. And this is how I describe democracy, right? In fact, this is how I name it. Demonic crisis. Demonic crisis. Demonic crisis. That's how I refer to democracy, as demonic crisis principle. Why, on the other hand, you see, the European Union urged a swift return to the, you see, I just told you, right? That's the game. That's how they play the game. And this is what's going to happen. After 5 more, 6 months, they're going to say, oh, carry the country back to constitutional rule. Folks, we shouldn't fall for this. The real democracy are the Sahel nation. The real constitutional rule are Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. All others, they are demonic crises. So you see the language here. While on the other hand, the European Union also urged a swift return to the constitutional order and the resumption of the electoral process. You see that nonsense? And then by the time they go to election, they go to the constitutional rule or electoral process, these same people will stay in power. Because before that 5 months or 6 months, these people will neutralize everything and sit down. The interest of the West, boom, already there, they maintain it, boom. Then they go for election. I mean, come on, man. We know the game, and that's the game. That is the game being played here. Now, I will take this out. I'm not going to read the whole article, but you already know now. I'll take it out. But you already know what's going on now, right? Let's continue with something here. Let's listen here. You know, if you do a coup, like for example, you saw Burkina Faso when Ibrahim Traoré carried on the coup, right? He knew why he carried on the coup, so he was factual. He was forthcoming in why the coup took place. The same go with Tiani. The same go with Keita, right? The same go with them. Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso. They were swift. In fact, they were forthcoming as to why they coup. But unlike these military, or unlike the coup in Guinea-Bissau, up to now, they have no clear understanding or explanation as to why the coup.
Of National Security, Military Command for the Restoration of National Security and Public Order. A statement. Issued by the High Command of different branches of the Armed Forces, the High Military Command for the Restoration of National Security and Public Order has just assumed full state powers of the Republic of Guinea-Bissau. Deeply committed to the values of national security, civil peace, the defense of territorial integrity, and the independence of Guinea-Bissau. The High Military Command for the Restoration of National Security and Public Order. Reacts to the discovery of an ongoing plan to destabilize our country, for which an operational scheme originating from some national politicians was set up, with the participation of a known drug lord, nationals, and foreigners, as well as an attempt to manipulate election results. To carry out this plan, a depot of weapons of war was discovered by the State Intelligence Service. Thus, and until the entire situation is properly clarified and the conditions for a full return to constitutional normality are restored, the High Military Command for the Restoration of National Security and Public Order decides to immediately suspend all instructions from the Republic of Guinea-Bissau until further notice. Suspend new orders until further notice the activities of all media outlets. Immediately suspend the ongoing electoral process. Establish a curfew from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. until the necessary conditions are restored to restore the constitutional normality of the Guinean state. The High Military Command for the Restoration of National Security and Public Order will exercise state power from this date. The High Military Command for the Restoration of State Security and Public Order appeals for calm, the cooperation of the Guinean people, and the understanding of all in the face of this serious situation imposed by a national emergency. Bissau, November 26, 2025. High Military Command for the Restoration of National Order.
All right, so folks, let's be real here. Let's be real here. You see, when the incident happened in Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, those people were factual about why they took over. They took over because of economic reasons. I mean, you're getting a clear picture, right? They took over because of economic reasons. The economic circumstances of their nation. The resources being taken out. There are people being pulled. The resources was not reflecting on the livelihood of the people. The government was not reflecting on the livelihood of, these things. They outlined it. But did you see this military government? What he said? They took over because of drug cartel. That they think a cartel was going to gang law, or cartel was going to I'm still trying to understand. And then there was something we read in the article, right? And that's what he was trying to say. Like political tension or this, that, right? That was when the opposition leader was saying they won an election. Because imagine the election result was supposed to be, given the next day. And then that day, which is normal, even in the US, yeah, people do the same thing. After the election, before the election, as they are counting the vote on TV, national TV, and you see people already rejoicing. Oh, this candidate, won. People already rejoicing even before the election. It's normal. In a democratic, that's why I say I don't believe Africa have a democracy. We don't. We have an influential democracy. We have an influential democracy. People influence it. Okay? So it's a normal thing for an opposition leader to say, I won an election. It's a normal thing for the president, who also a candidate, because at that point you are not a president, you are a candidate, right? To say, I won an election. It's normal. It's normal thing. It's normal for their various supporters to say, we won. But at the end of the day, it is the election commission that everyone are waiting for. It is the election commission that will say, this person won. So, the next day, let's say tomorrow, election is supposed to be given, the results supposed to be given. And then, military leader take over to say there was a political tension. What make a political tension? Were people on the street after the result was given? Maybe you can say there was a political tension after the result was given. They said the government won and the opposition did not win, right? And then you see citizens doing their thing, like fighting. You see, then you can say then you can come in, but nothing like that. And they said there was a political tension. No, people were just saying, I won. The other person said, I won. That's not political tension. They are waiting for the result. The result come, the result come. But according to the military government, they took over because there was a political tension. People were saying, opposition said, I won. Ruling party said, I won. Does that in itself classify someone a coup d'etat? Absolutely not. And then he said there was a drug law cartel and all of those things. Folks, Guinea-Bissau on the African continent, right? It is the nation, the number one nation in Africa on the African continent when it comes to drugs, when it comes to drugs law. So all those long years, those cartel, they never carry on stabilization whatsoever. It is this election. So in other words, they have nothing to say. They just force that in there. But they did not speak on how the economy of the nation is not affecting the livelihood of the people. They did not focus on how the government is not, nothing like that. Like I said, Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, you could see what they outlined as to why they came in power. In fact, Burkina Faso, how they call it, Burkina Faso, Abraham Traore, even later, it was never his intention in the first place to become leader, because there was first coup, right? Which of course the other man was there. He was just behind, and when that man took him in, he did not fulfill why they carried on the first coup in the first place. You see? So in other words, he was going by being a puppet. And that's when Abraham Traore said, he came in, he said, no, we cannot remove a government and then you come in and do the same thing, we remove the government by supporting Western interests over the interests of the country, by taking our resources that is not affecting the livelihood of the people, that the economy of our nation is benefiting the economy of another nation, not our people. I mean, they lay it down. But see what this commander, this general, right, that took over the country, see what he said. Nothing in there that he addressed that relate to the people. Again, sabotage. It was a planting. Now, it's deeper to that. It's deeper to that, right? Where in this war, a military will carry on coup. And then the person that have been deposed is the one texting various outlet media to say, I have been overthrown. Number one. Where in the world do you see that? The man that has been overthrown has cell phone. And then calling people. Not on annotations. Relax. But calling and say, I have been overthrown. Texting very outlet media. So he did that so that these media can carry it to say there have been a coup. You see, it was planned. It was not even the military leader that came out to say we have overtaken the country. No. It was not a military leader that came to say we have carried on coup. No. That's why you see that military leader came and spoke with nothing as to why. It was not about the country. It was not about the people. How can someone who has been overthrown is the one calling around to tell people I have been overthrown? The one who is overthrown is the one texting various media to spread the news that I have been overthrown. How? Not only that, let's move further. Before the overthrow took place, the government came out to say there is going to be a coup. Imagine that. The government came out to say there is going to be a coup. When the result of the election is supposed to be announced tomorrow. When the result of the election supposed to be announced tomorrow. Then the same ruling party in Bambola, who was rejoicing as he won the election, and then come out to say there is going to be a coup. If you won the election, why would there be a coup? If you won the election, why would there be a coup? And then the same people who are serving as leader, the prime minister, was campaign chair or campaign director for the ruling party. He was serving as finance minister, and then he was also serving as campaign director for the ruling party. And today, he is the one that is serving as the prime minister. Are you understanding, folks? Let's continue, man. It was not a coup, folks. It was well planned. Well planned. African youth, open your eye, because that is the new model of democracy that is coming for people to stay in power. They will come in maybe after election, and then they come when they know that that party in power did not win, that is supporting Western interests. They will carry on coup. And finish. They carry on coup, then they dissolve the parliament. Yes. They carry on coup, dissolve the parliament, dissolve the constitution, and then appoint the main people they want to put in, like the finance minister. Now he's a prime minister. Put them in, and then after 6-7 months, right? And then Euro will come out, the United States will come out, or United Nations will come out, UN will, AU will come out, ECO will come out to say, hey, you know what? We gave you, after they have spent maybe 4 or 5 months or 6 months in power now, right? Then all these institutions, AU, ECO, UN, then this nation, United States, Europe, now they will come up pretending, you know what? We gave you 5 months or 6 months to put, settle your government and then to turn the country back over to constitutional rule. Bullshit. They already finished doing that deal. Oh my God. So interesting. Eh? Let's continue. Now, this is one of the former president of Nigeria, Jonathan Goodluck, or Goodluck Jonathan, right? Now, listen to this. The United States and Europe also went against this man's government and removed him from power. So, Jonathan Goodluck or Goodluck Jonathan understand the United States. You see, the current government in Nigeria, they are also puppet of the United States. So the United States, along with Europe, they work together. The undermine Goodluck Jonathan government through Buhari, Muhammadu Buhari. They work with Muhammadu Buhari. They undermine Jonathan Goodluck or Goodluck Jonathan government and remove him. And the way in which they did that, we're going to show that here. The way in which they did that to undermine Goodluck Jonathan government and then put in Muhammadu Buhari. And then when Buhari was leaving, and then put in a non-American puppet-backed government, Tinubu, who is a felony in the United States, have been alleged in Chicago. And the case is there. But they forgot that case because they made a deal with him to use him for strategic interests of the U.S. in Nigeria. So you see how these people play. Again, let me say this. You know, this is WCC. We don't point fingers and then we don't make it clear. Now we say this and I will say this. We've been saying it and I will say this. Do I blame the US for what they do in Africa? Absolutely not. We just have to speak about it, but I don't. Do I blame Europe? Yeah, man. Never. But again, we have to speak about it. Who do I blame them? I blame the same stupid Africans. I blame the same stupid African. I blame the same stupid slave. I blame the same African slave. I blame the same African slave. These stupid Africans. I blame them. I don't blame Europe. I don't blame America because listen, hey God, look, that's the way these people survive. Hey man. Oh God. That's how these people survive. That's how they survive. That's how they keep up to what they do to survive. I do not blame them, although yes, we speak about it, in which of course we will speak about it. We will continue, we will not keep silent. But again, I don't blame them. I blame the stupid African. I blame this slave, this African slave. Let's continue here.
In Guinea-Bissau and, monitoring these elections.
Thank you so much. Since I left office, I've always been scared talking to the media. But in this particular case, I decided to speak to the media. First and foremost, to thank Nigerians for the show of empathy, the encouragement, because while we are in Bissau and this so-called coup happened, the information we got was that the whole country was agitated, young and old, irrespective of religious divides or political divides. And I sincerely appreciate Nigerians. And I want them to hear directly from my mouth to appreciate their concern. And secondly, to thank my president, President Tinubu, and the Ivorian president, President Ouattara. Both presidents were to send aircraft to lift us, but somehow, Côte d'Ivoire is closer to Guinea-Bissau, and there's always some relationship between Francophone countries and the Lusophones among the Francophones. They were able to penetrate their system to get landing permit first before Nigeria could do that. So the Ivorian aircraft was already on their way to pick us. So when we learned about the Nigerian aircraft about leaving, we asked them not to bother. That is why if you see the picture that was brought by an Ivorian aircraft. So we thank the two presidents, President Ouattara, President Tinubu, and indeed thank Nigerians, young and old, for that. And specifically, what happened in Guinea-Bissau, I wouldn't call it a coup. It was not a coup.
This is why I stopped shopping on Amazon, and you should too. Don't spend another dime on Amazon.
Maybe some people describe it as no, not quite.
RNG?
I would just say, if it is like, for want of better word, I would say maybe it was a ceremonial coup. Because for two things, it is the president, President Barlow, that announced the coup. Before later, the military man came up to address the world that they were in charge of everywhere. Then,
all right, so you heard General Gulag. It was the president who announced the coup. And then before later on, the military leader came on air to announce it. Are you understanding this? So General Gulag was there, okay? He was there. He was on the scene. He was in Guinea-Bissau to monitor the election. All right, he was there. He was in Guinea-Bissau. So when this thing happened, it even became a concern, from the Nigerian people about their former president, whether he's safe. But as God could have it, he was safe. He managed to escape. All right. And I believe there's this news is being reported in Nigeria after he has returned back. I believe so. But you heard what he said. It was Ebola that announced the coup. How can that happen? So they were shocked. And you heard him what he said. It was not a coup. It was not a coup. It was something planned. They planned it to do it. It was not a coup. And then from the military leader, the reason why he said they carry on coup, you can see that is not an excess. That is not important to carry on coup, because he think gang member or cartel, coming called since in fact 1974. And Guinea-Bissau is one of the most leading area in gang authority. They never carry on those things. They are there to carry on their drugs, because that's where the drugs, when they say gang, that's where the drugs go. These people are there to carry on their trade, their drugs and things. Because from Guinea-Bissau to Europe, it's not far, like, a very short in shape and thing. Couple of days, you reach Europe. Couple of days, you reach Brazil. So the drugs come from Brazil, then they're Guinea-Bissau, and then before they distribute it from Guinea-Bissau, then they distribute it in various African countries. But at Guinea-Bissau, all the drugs can go in Guinea-Bissau. So the drugs that leave from Europe, the drugs that leave from Colombia, let's just say South America and things Brazil there, that go on the African continent, it first go to Guinea-Bissau. They go to Guinea-Bissau. And then from Guinea-Bissau, then they distribute it from Guinea-Bissau now, into these African countries. Okay? So the military leader never talk about, like the economy, the social activities. No. But he talk about, how two candidates were saying, I won an election. And then, or another thing, how, gang law, or how they call it, gang traffic or something, those things. That is coming called, you see? And then the president announced that there's a coup. They overthrow you. The person that overthrow you never made an announcement. But you made an announcement. You see? And then after some hours passed, then before the military leader came out to speak that there's a coup. Let's continue.
Embalo has already announced the coup, which is strange. Not only announcing the coup, but Embalo, while the coup took place, was using his phone and addressing media organizations across the world that he has been arrested. I'm a Nigerian close to 70, and I know how they keep heads of state when the coup takes place. Recently, I was a mediator in Mali, an ECOWAS mediator in Mali, and within that period, we had a military coup. Military don't take over governments, and the sitting president that they overthrown will be allowed to be addressing press conferences and announcing that he has been arrested. Why does this happen? Who is fooling who? Basically, what happened in Guinea-Bissau is quite disturbing to me, who believes in democracy. In fact, I feel more pained than the day I called Buhari to congratulate him when I lost the election as a sitting president. Because I've been quite particular about Guinea-Bissau. As a sitting president, then, Guinea-Bissau was in crisis. Started by about 2012. By 2011, we have to go physically. We worked with them and made sure that by 2014, we went 2013, elections were conducted. In fact, it was so bad the day that I learned that a military man went to the office of the prime minister and slapped the prime minister in the office. It was that bad. And what is happening is like we are going back to those dark days of Guinea-Bissau, where the military can do whatever they think they can do. It's totally not acceptable. The elections were done peacefully. We were in the field. I was a part of the West African Elders Forum. Normally, we are not co-observers, so we didn't deploy observation teams across, but we observed within
So you listen to Janitor Goodluck or Goodluck Janitor, right? He was in Guinea-Bissau. You listen to him. The election was done peacefully. You listen to him. The election was peaceful. People went to the ballot box. They cast in their votes. And then the election was, the election ended. All the police station closed according to the precise time they're supposed to close. No locomotion. Everybody went home. And then counting the votes. And then for, let's say, tomorrow for the result to be out. And then coup. That show the opposition leader won the election.
Bissau, the capital, and the neighboring settlements.
Simple. I only pay $10 a month for my internet connection. Fast, unlimited, anywhere. Have you heard about Ryoko Pro?
But during the meeting of all heads of observation missions, and they gave accounts of all the observers gave their account. Nobody gave something different. The elections were peaceful. Counting of results at the polling units peacefully done. The conduct of the electoral officials, the security, the party agents, the voters. It was a good election, and one expected the results to be announced. Then while they were collating the results, then they are finished collating results. Results for presidential election are collated at different levels. The 9 regions, results were ready. So they were collating them at the capital. And when they were almost through, and we're all waiting for the result to be announced, then Mbello announced that that's a coup. That they have taken over, they have arrested him. But from all indications, nobody arrested him. My conviction is that, and my charge to ECOWAS and AU is that they must announce their results. They have the results because AU and ECOWAS officials were at all the regions when the results were collated. They cannot change those results. They should tally all those results and announce. They cannot force the military out, but they must announce, let the world know who won that election. Let the world know who won that election. And they owe the world that responsibility. Similar thing happened in Cote d'Ivoire when I was the chair of the Authority of Heads of State and Government of ECOWAS. When in 2010, we had elections in Cote d'Ivoire. Gbagbo was the sitting president. At the first round, Gbagbo got 40-something% of the votes. Ouattara got 30-something% of the votes. And their law, you must get 50% of the votes plus 1, at least. Democrats are about majority. You must get a simple majority to be the president. So they have to go for a second round. And when they went for the second round, all those other candidates that lost now supported Ouattara. And Ouattara now got more votes than Gbagbo. And Gbagbo said it was not going. That they won the election. How can somebody who had something now come and defeat it? But that is a law. Then all the observers, international community say Ouattara won the election. Then we ECOWAS said, well, you're our colleague, but you have to go. If the observers, everybody say Ouattara won the election, Ouattara must be sworn in as president of Cote d'Ivoire. I stood my ground as the chair of the Authority of Heads of State and Government of ECOWAS, and Ouattara was sworn in. So the leadership of ECOWAS, luckily, Madabio was a former military man himself, so he should be courageous. Leadership of AU, they must be courageous. They must announce who won that election. I'm not saying they should mobilize soldiers to go and fight. No need to save blood, but we must know. Because the results are there. They have the results. The AU, ECOWAS, they have the results. So we cannot be playing pranks. Nobody should call others fools. There's no way they remove a military coup. Military coup at the time they want to announce the result. How? And the president was the person who announced the coup. It doesn't happen anywhere. Well, people are too young, so they didn't know what used to happen in Nigeria. We're a country that witnessed a series of coups before. So it doesn't happen.
Well, Your Excellency, speaking about ECOWAS, as of this morning, there was an update that ECOWAS leaders have suspended Guinea-Bissau from decision-making bodies. What comments do you have towards that?
No, that's traditional, because ECOWAS, though, if you follow the history of ECOWAS started when a number of West African countries had military leaders. But later on, when leaders now see that for your economy, ECOWAS is economic community, the emphasis was the economy. But for you to develop your economy, you must be politically stable. So protocols were changed, and we agree that in ECOWAS, we must not go back to military rule. We must not go back to military dictatorship. We must embrace democracy. And since the change of protocols, if any country, a military takeover, that country is suspended. It's normally, it's natural. So we expect that, and they knew it was going to happen. So it's not strange.
So, Your Excellency, as we speak now, 4 countries within the West African bloc, 3 have already...
Don't worry yourself. Even if 5 countries remain in ECOWAS, so be it. It's costly to do the right thing. But ECOWAS must not bother. If Guinea-Bissau want to join the military camp, they should. They should. Even if 5 countries are committed to remain in ECOWAS and develop ECOWAS, the only thing is that they must modify the protocols or create some other protocols to make sure that ECOWAS do things that will endear them to the citizens, things that young people will benefit, things that business class will benefit, things that students will benefit. Let ECOWAS be attractive.
This Black Friday, get our best deal at Verizon. Now you...
To citizens of the community, not just talking about political issues. When ECOWAS continue to do those things, these countries, they will come back to join ECOWAS. The military, it will not be forever. You carry gun today, took over government, with time, society will be tired of you and will ask you to go. It will not take more than 10 years for all these countries to go back to civil rule, and they will join ECOWAS. So for now, even if only 5 countries out of the 15 are ready to carry on with the ECOWAS, they should. So we should not bother about that and begin to change their position. ECOWAS must stand firm. We cannot accept military in ECOWAS.
So you sound, even from your words, that we can feel the pain, because you are someone who believes constitutional democracy must reign. For the persons concerned in this, because you have also shared that your strong feeling is that this coup was engineered by President Mbello himself, a former military officer. The question, sir, is this. For someone who chaired ECOWAS, talking about President Mbello, how do some of you who also chair the same body feel?
That is the most painful thing. President Mbello, just yesterday, was the chair of the Authority of Heads of State and Government of ECOWAS. One will expect him, as the president of Guinea-Bissau, to do his best. Luckily, he's an ex-military man. So he has a military constituency. He was a very senior military man before retiring. So he has his own friends, boys, and so on. He should be the person that can prevent any coup in Guinea-Bissau. I don't expect a coup that will remove him from office. In any case, the election, immediately they announced, for them, immediately the results are announced. They inaugurate the new president the following day, so his tenure was almost over. But I don't expect him to be as the president of Guinea-Bissau, a retired senior military man, and they organize coup against him. I don't expect. I don't.
So speaking about President Mbalo, what would you advise him and the political class of Guinea-Bissau at this moment?
Well, I know what the political class will do. I don't even need to advise, because the political class will want those results to be announced. The political class will want the results of the election to be announced. Nobody should take citizens of a country for a ride. People did not go to work. People wasted their time, queued up, voted, and when they're about to announce the results, then you come as soldiers and you scuttle the results. So the political class will never accept that. For the military, I'll plead with them not to take Guinea-Bissau back to the dark days of 2011 to 2014. Because I was the chair of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government, and I was involved. Most of them acknowledged it anyway when they saw me. They say, we know what you did for us. We know what you did for us. They know what Nigeria did to stabilize the country.
As we speak,
so it's painful to say. So that's what I'm saying, that Ambello knows everything, the president knows everything. So it's painful for him to be the president of Guinea-Bissau and say military people are taking over government.
Your Excellency,
it's totally not accepted.
Your Excellency, you are now back in Nigeria, having seen what occurred there. The main opposition leader, Fernando Diaz, is still in custody. What's your message?
They have to release the man. The man has not committed any offense. They just have to release the man. And the international community must talk to the military to release the man. The man has not committed any offense. The man has not even declared himself president, as to say, oh, we have taken over government and you have declared yourself. So it's treason. No. The man has not committed any offense. There's no reason to restrict the man at all. They should allow the man to be free. And we advise the military in Guinea-Bissau not to take Guinea-Bissau backwards. When I was in Guinea-Bissau 2012, and just came back from Guinea-Bissau yesterday, there's significant development going on. The capital is taking shape. And we believe that with that, the country will take shape. So the military should not take us backward to the dark days of 2011 to 2014.
And finally, Your Excellency, how soon do you expect a return to constitutional government?
Nobody can say. Nobody can say. But I believe if...
All right, so you heard for yourself, right? That's a former Nigerian president, Mr. Honorable Goodluck Jonathan, right? And he to his government was undermined by the US and Europe. And through Muhammadu Buhari, and he was removed. And then they put Buhari in. Buhari came, and then Tinubu succeeded Buhari. So the same government stayed there. So you heard what he said. I mean, the opposition leader is even in custody with the military ruler. But guess what? The deposed government is not in the hands of the military ruler. The deposed government is in Senegal right now. You see that? The man who was overthrown, right? How come he's in Guinea? I mean, not Guinea, he's in Senegal. He escaped, he's in Senegal. Opposition leader who know nothing, not all he was just rejoicing. Oh yeah, I won the election, I won the election. Waiting for the election result to come out, or waiting for the election result to come out. He is the one in a military custody. You see that? But you heard what Jonathan Goodluck said. He clearly explained it. So we all know it was not a coup, right? It was something planned to keep the same government aim to carry on Western interests. And that's the damn truth. All right? The same thing happened in Gabon. That's the same thing happened in Guinea-Bissau. So I said I was going to put in how Jonathan Goodluck was exposed, like I said, not exposed, but was overthrown, right? Went against him to remove him, for Nigeria to turn against him, right? Let's see something here.
Trump is no longer coming to help Nigerians, and before you doubt it,
certain narrative is currently being pushed to sabotage the effort President Donald Trump is making to stop the genocide happening in Nigeria. But the problem is they're not telling you the whole truth. Recently, a popular Nigerian pastor, Femi Lazarus, claimed in a viral video that the United States once refused to sell arms to Nigeria under President Goodluck Jonathan. What he failed to tell his followers is when and under whom that actually happened. The US arms blockade against Nigeria wasn't under Trump. It was under Barack Obama, the same administration that quietly supported the opposition party, APC, in its quest to...
So, you see, right, in order to remove Jonathan Goodluck, or Goodluck Jonathan, from power, you saw what it did, right? Created chaos, and during this time, Boko Haram time, right? Terrorist thing was going on, Boko Haram time. So they put legislative sanction, right? As I will put a sanction on Jonathan Goodluck that he couldn't buy arms. So they put a sanction on him that he will not buy arms from nowhere, because they saw that he did not support their foreign policy. And that have been the issues, of the African continent. And look, and I keep saying this, look, you think I'll blame the US? I mean, the US got to survive. You think I'll blame NATO? They got to survive. I blame the African leaders who failed to come together, who failed to unite the continent. And we've been saying this. You guys can unite the continent, and you can still, control your various nation that you see as colonial. You can still control it. You can still be the governor in those areas. You can still. But what we want here is unite the continent. Look at Europe, and they still have their various leader, their various prime minister, whatsoever. But they unite Europe. They don't have it as separate. They unite it. And that's the same thing we've been saying. These African leaders are too greedy. And it becomes so easy for Europe and America to manipulate or to defeat us, to do what they want to do. Because at the end of the day, one nation cannot fight these people, or you cannot do anything. So on the other hand, Jonathan Goodluck, he won't fight by himself, right? And it was easy to manipulate his government. And then see what Scott Perry said, the United States through USAID sponsored Boko Haram. And that's the same thing they did to Jonathan Goodluck. And then when they did that, then Boko Haram started killing people, destroying, doing things Then they put sanction on Buhari from buying ammunition. Right there now, it made Jonathan Goodluck government to look bad. And then people now began to think of Jonathan Goodluck the other way around and say, no, we don't want this man. This man got to go. This, that, Then they went against him, they voted against him. And then Buhari came in. So listen.
Unseat Jonathan's government in 2015. Let's start from there. By 2014, Nigeria was in the heat of war against Boko Haram. Churches were burning, schools were attacked, entire communities were being displaced in the...
So you see, all during this time, right? The so-called people who are pushing the narrative, oh, Christians are dying, oh, Christians, they never did nothing. So Christians been dying long time, churches more being blown long time. They never talk about it. And you see, and that's what we keep saying. There's narrative, oh, they're coming to fight for Christians. It's not it. It's not it. It's just because they are puppet. The same thing they did to Jonathan Goodluck, right? That's the same thing they're doing right now. They are puppet. Buhari, have turned to China and made $1 billion deal with China to create infrastructure, which of course they have not created. They want to get the mineral resources and leave to create the infrastructure in their country. That's the same thing going on right now. So you see what it did to Jonathan Goodluck. Your own black man, Barack Obama. We know Barack Obama was not a president anyway. He was just the face. But you see what the West do. And like I've been saying, do I blame the West when they're doing these things? I can't. I don't blame them. They have to survive. That's what they do to survive. But I blame these so-called African slaves, these African leaders who are so ingrained into this, or I'm a president of Liberia, that's it. I'm a president of Ghana, that's it. I'm a president of Burkina Faso. I'm a president of Mali. I'm a president of Benin. I'm a president of Sierra Leone. I'm a president of this. I'm a president of, that's it. They don't want to believe. Even a single currency, they can't come out with a single currency. They try to come out with ECHO, but by the time France and NATO came in, Africa went back. They suddenly they forgot about ECHO. You don't hear African nations talking about ECHO again. These African leaders talking about ECHO, one currency, they don't again. So I blame them. Look, look, let me say this. As much as we can point finger at the United States or at Europe, look, I don't blame these people, folks. I don't. I blame these African slaves. I blame these African slaves who call themselves leaders. I blame them. Because we see all these things, right? And the West will continue to use all like how they use them. Look, do you believe that the Muslim, the same Muslim today, you see, and then look, let me say this. You see the same Muslim today that the US is preaching against, that, oh, Muslims are killing Christian, Muslims are killing Christian. Do you know that it was the same Muslim that the US passed through to remove Jonathan Gulag? Do you know that? It was the same Muslim that the United States, NATO, they passed through to remove Jonathan Gulag. It was the same Christian again. The same US, NATO passed through to remove Jonathan Gulag. Watch. And then tomorrow, the other generation will come and say, our forefather did nothing. And then you will be the same people that will be pointing finger, our forefather did nothing. Our forefather saw, our forefather did it. Yes, because we continue to sell the African continent. We continue to sell ourselves to these same people. We don't see that. We don't see it. But tomorrow it was taken, we say, oh, that Europe was the cause. Oh, that America was the cause. No, that you damn people are the cause. You slave.
The Northeast. President Jonathan's administration reached out to the U.S. for advanced weapon systems, drones, and surveillance aircraft. But Washington said no. They cited human rights concerns under the Leahy Law, which bans arms sales to foreign forces accused of abuses. But that wasn't the full story. Behind closed doors, some of Nigeria's most powerful opposition figures were lobbying Washington to isolate Jonathan's government. Among them was Bola Ahmed Tinubu, then a key APC leader and now Nigeria's current president, along with several northern governors who traveled to the United States. They met with policymakers, think tanks, and advocacy groups, presenting a narrative that Jonathan's administration.
Folks, I'm not cutting you off, right? This was the same thing they did in Liberia under the George Weah-led government. It was the same Liberian, because of hate, who came to Washington, D.C. and advocated for the removal of President Weah and advocated for sanction on the nation. The same Liberian. Are you getting it? And now today, the same Liberian who advocated, they say, oh, human right. Weah was treating his people. Weah was not giving a job. Weah was not giving medical facility. Weah was not doing this. Weah was not doing this. Weah was a dictator. Weah was bad. Weah was bad. Now, another government come in. I don't want to talk about it. But it's worse than the Weah-led government. But guess what? The same people doing Weah administration who came to Washington, D.C. that they impose sanction on Liberia, the United States should not give aid. In fact, you'll be shocked what it did. The people who came to advocate, one of them called Yasini Ping, who came to Washington, D.C. Do you know how they describe themselves to Washington, D.C.? They describe themselves as slave. Don't believe me. According to them, they say the slave the United States took to Liberia, those slaves, that's how they said it. They never said, free. That's how they said it. To gain sympathy. They said the slave the U.S. took to Liberia, those slaves rule in favor of the U.S. You see, folks, and that's why sometimes when we keep telling people Liberia was a colony, it is the same Liberian people who will come against some of us. Because the research we know, what we know, when we want to educate them, that the same Liberian people will sell us. They will come and sell us. But Yasenik was to the White House in a Congress, Washington, D.C., telling the U.S., Marco Rubio them, telling them that the slave, and these were her words, the slave that you guys took from here and took them to Liberia, those slaves were American. Those slaves work for the interest of America in Liberia. Although those slaves are not alive today, but the descendants of those slaves are alive. And it is the descendant of those slaves who are standing before you here today. Those are what she said. It is a descendant of those slaves who are standing before you today. And it is a descendant of those slaves who are telling you today, do not send American taxpayer money to Liberia. The descendant of those slaves who are standing here today are slaves are telling you, do not send money to Liberia to help the Liberian government for Liberia. For the progress of Liberia, for the improvement of Liberia, we are asking you, do not send money there. It is the same slave that are telling you today, possession on Liberia. You see? And what you want for the U.S. to do? If the U.S. felt that that government was not protecting her interests, that government was going to China, making deal with China, whatsoever, like maybe the fair was in the interest of Liberia, why didn't it happen? Boom, the U.S. sponsor propaganda machine all across the nation, media, to the extent the United States Ambassador Alata McCarthy said it, that the United States has sponsored, propaganda media for the removal of we are. But guess what today? Now it is the same Liberians who are crying, who are struggling now, calling for President we are. But all those people yesterday who said they were fighting for humanity, none of them are around today. And those so-called media who yesterday, they were going around making sure to tarnish that government. Today, some of those people who said they were media personnel, because a lot of Liberia, even somebody who has cell phone, they were media personnel. But today, some of those people, they don't even have cell phone today to become media personnel. Today, some of those people, they are there to try to get on the street and say they are media personnel. They are asking them, what is your, how they call it, journalist ID or journalist, they are asking them today. So they turn against their own self. And that's the same thing that happened with Jonathan Goodluck government. You saw Tinubu then, Buhari then. You saw how Tinubu became president. Because those are the things they fight for. America create puppets. But again, do I blame the US for what they are? No, they got to survive. I blame these same African people. Because of power greed, because they want to come to power. Instead of them waiting, instead of them doing the right thing that will bring them to power, they don't want to do it. They want a shortcut. And taking the shortcut, I mean, you have to come to the West to make that government look ugly, especially if that government is not doing things according to the interests of the West. Then you have to come to the West to get your support, to sponsor propaganda, to go against that government for you to come in. And it's a game. And then you come in, you think, there you go. Look, we Africans, we are the problem. We want to continue to be slaves. We don't want to do the right thing to wait to come to power. We want to come to power by force. And then by force, we take the shortcut. And by taking the shortcut, we invite the devil to come in. That's what happened with Nigeria. So sometimes, today they are saying Christian, but yesterday it was the same Muslim. But today now they are saying Muslims are killing Christians, want to go save Christians. But it was the same Muslim yesterday that the US used. It was the same religious leader yesterday that the NATO used, the US used. You see? You see why the last time on the same podcast I said the two religions that are the problem to the African continent are the Islamic religion and the Christianity religion. You see it?
administration was corrupt, anti-Muslim, and unfit to lead. They urged the US to withhold arms sales.
At that time, they said they were anti-Muslim. So maybe, so we can say that at that time, because Jonathan Goodluck, he's a Christian. So at that time, you see the game? So at that time, or the Christian were against the Muslim. So they were anti-Muslim. So the US pushed that. And then Buhari then being Muslim, they came to the US, they pushed that. So at that time, the US went to go fight for Muslims. The US went to go fight for Islamic. They fight to fight for the Muslim. You see? So today now, and at that time was the same Boko Haram though, was the same Boko Haram that they are saying today Boko Haram, they are Muslim. But was the same Boko Haram that was still there killing Muslim. Where Jonathan Goodluck came to ask for arms, America put section on them from selling arms. While at that time, USAID, according to Scott Perry, were funding Boko Haram. And then now they strangle Jonathan Goodluck, and then now the United States now saying that oh, they are going, the Christians are anti-Muslim. You see? So today the table turn now. They use the other one, so they're not Muslim now. They finished, the United States has saved Muslims. So the United States today now, they want to save Christians. So you see the game? You see the two religion, the two devilish religion in the world that is being used against us because we left our tradition. We left our spiritual belief, our spiritual way of doing things. Now we go to white man religion, Jesus. Jesus has never existed. Jesus has never existed in Africa. Jesus has never existed in the Bible because the Jesus of the Bible is not the Jesus of the white Jesus. No, that's not a Jesus. In fact, that was not his name, Jesus. And then today, we have another one called Muhammad, Mecca. They go worship rock. When we have plenty of rocks in Africa that we're supposed to worship, we don't worship it though. But we go where Mecca to go worship rocks. When we have all these hills, all these mountains. Because our forefathers, they worship the rock in Africa, and those rocks answer their prayers. When they want rain, they go to the rocks, they worship the rock, it rains. They want rain, they go to the river, they worship the river, it rains. They have good harvest, those things. But now we leave the rocks in Africa, we go way to Mecca to go worship another stone and pay money to them. Now, we leave our spiritual belief, our spiritual way of worship, we go way to Israel. The Israel where the current people are there, they are the people they call synagogues of Satan. They are not the biblical Israelites. They are the synagogues of Satan in Israel. The Bible refers to them as synagogues of Satan. That the people we're going to today. That the people we see as the biblical people or the people, the chosen people. We go to the Vatican. We go worship another idol. We leave our idol in Africa. We go worship another idol. And then these people, they use these things against us. You see?
Claiming any weapons sent to Jonathan would be used to suppress the opposition. That lobbying worked. The Obama administration, already skeptical of Jonathan's growing independence from Western influence, quietly placed Nigeria on an informal blacklist. US and UK defense contractors were instructed to delay or deny sales. Even Israel backed off ongoing deals. What began as a security partnership turned into a calculated squeeze, a political move designed to weaken Jonathan ahead of the 2015 elections. When the blockade became unbearable and Nigerian soldiers began dying for lack of ammunition, Jonathan turned elsewhere. He reached out to South African mercenaries, STTEP.
And I'm not cutting you off, folks. And that's the same thing happening with the Buhari government. With the Tinubu government. So you see, making a deal with the devil, the day you decide to turn to your people, the devil move from behind you. So now you see, Tinubu too now, the sixth session is on him. You see, and Abraham Tuare talk about this, that These people sponsor the terrorists. But when we want to go out to go buy ammunition to come for the terrorists, then they say people shouldn't sell arms to us. But USAID, according to Scott Perry, and then according to the Nigerian army, the Medecins Sans Frontières, these are the people sponsoring terrorists, giving ammunition, carrying a helicopter, giving them medication and those things. And that's the same thing happening with the Tinubu government. Lot of Nigerian in fact, I didn't even bring that, but Nigerian soldiers are retiring. Young folks are retiring because they are saying we don't have the equipment, we don't have the military might, the equipment are not there. But how can the terrorists have all these military might, this equipment, and then you expect us to go on the land to go fight and to go for these people to kill us? Nigerian military are resigning. So you see, Tinubu, you see, there's a reason why we cannot or we should not keep continuing with the West if we want to get into power. Do the right thing to get into power by your people. Do the right thing for your people to put you in power. Then to come to the West to undermine a government just because you want to come to power. Because do unto others as you expect others to do unto you. Do unto others as you expect others to do unto you. Because when you come to power, you decide that, you know what, I want to do this different. The same people you went to, they will go against you if you're not in their interest. And that's what's happening with the government. The moment you turn around to China, when you made $25 billion deal with China to build factory, boom! The United States turn around and they say they want to fight for Christian. Yesterday, they were fighting for Muslim. But today, on Jonathan Gula, that was Christian, they were fighting for Muslim. Today, Tinubu now, because you turn to China now, you Muslim. Today, they turn to Christian. They want to fight for Christian. You see? I don't blame these people. I blame the African leaders. Because you guys are the people. You guys are stupid and dumb. And some of the African media personnel, you guys are stupid and dumb. Read books like this, and you will get the formula to Africa freedom. Read books like this, and you will know how to fight for Africa. Read books like this, you will know the solution for Africa problem. Not because you went to Oxford, not because you went to Penn State, not because you went to Harvard University, made you a good president for any African nation. Not because you can speak good English, not because you can speak American English, or the British or English, or the Queen language, or American language. Me, you are a good fit. Chinese do not speak English. They do not speak the Queen language either. But you see China, North Korea, they speak their dialect. But you see them. You see the Asian country, they don't speak English. But you see their country. But for me, it is the same African people who will mock another African or leader of not speaking good English, mean you're not a good leader. You can't read in English, mean you are not a good leader. Colonial mentality, stupidity. That's why I say it is not a U.S. The U.S. is not a problem, man. I'm telling you. The United States is not a problem. Yes, we might continue to talk about their involvement and think they are crooked deeds, but crooks are all over, man. Crooks are everywhere. Yes, crooks are everywhere. But the truth is, man, let me be frank. The U.S. is not a problem. Yes, the U.S. got to play her game. If it work, it work. Europe got to play her game. If it work, it work. Listen to this. Let everyone finish. Let me show you something.
Led by Eben Barlow, a team of battle-hardened veterans who had fought across Africa. Their mission was simple: reclaim territory from Boko Haram and train Nigeria's elite units. In just a few months, they achieved what years of conventional warfare had failed to deliver. Boko Haram began losing ground. Communities started returning home. The tide was finally turning. But that progress didn't last long, because as Jonathan's forces advanced, another battle was being fought behind the scenes. A political war waged from Washington, D.C. The U.S., under Obama, had quietly thrown its weight behind the All Progressives.
So what you missed is, right, after Janitor came to the US, negotiated for arm and ammunition, they said no. And then they came out with human rights policy, this, that, blah, blah, blah. While Boko Haram was killing, right? What Janitor did, he went back. The little arm and ammunition Janitor Gula had, he used it. And to some extent, he defeated Boko Haram, as you see in the video there. He defeated Boko Haram, as the narrator is saying. Then Boko Haram, kind of slowed down. Because with the little arm he had, Janitor Gula had, he used it. And then things came back to normal. Then surveillance started coming back to their very, places and things. What then happened? US said, oh, okay, we're coming for you. They used another slave, as you all know.
Congress, the APC, providing funding, campaign consulting, and even an American campaign manager who advised Buhari's team on strategy and messaging. It was no longer just Nigeria's election. It was an international project. Obama's administration, working through the Democratic Party's global networks, backed Buhari as the face of change and reform. APC became, in essence, a political creation of the Obama-era State Department, a party shaped, promoted, and supported by foreign interests determined to end Jonathan's rule. 12 northern governors were even invited to the US under Obama's watch for a closed-door meeting.
So you see, that's Muslim people. So a lot of time it was a Muslim. They were saving Muslim. Janitor being a Christian, a lot of time Muslim, they were saving Muslim. So they use that narrative. So you see. And these are Africans in Washington, D.C. Do you want to blame America, folks? America got to protect our interests. But so you see, these are Nigerian. These are elite. These are Africans. You see, just because they want to come to power.
According to reports, they assured Washington of their commitment to removing Jonathan and promised that once Buhari was in power, relations would improve. Some of them even pleaded for continued arms restrictions so that the government's...
So now you see it. You see it? So it is the African who came. So now you see what is going on in Nigeria. It is the Africans who came. It is the Nigerian who came and said, no, don't sell arms to Janitor. Let Boko Haram kill Nigeria. You see, that's the same thing the other slave in Liberia did to Joshua government. The same way the slave in Nigeria at that time under Janitor came in Washington, D.C., that was the same way the slave in Liberia under Joshua government also came to Washington, D.C. Those slaves came here too and did the same thing. Do you want to blame Washington, D.C., folks? No, we blame these African slaves. Washington, D.C. got to survive. Who don't want their interest to be protected? They came, Nigerian came and asked and told, don't sell arms to Jonathan Goodluck. Let Boko Haram kill Nigerian. And then Nigeria will go against Jonathan Goodluck and vote against him. And that was what happened. And that's how Muhammadu Buhari, whosoever came to power. Because Jonathan Goodluck was now the bad guy. He couldn't save Nigeria. He couldn't protect Nigeria. You see? Folks, Africans are the problem. It's not America. It's not America. It's not Europe. We are the problem.
military efforts would collapse before the elections. And it worked exactly as planned. Jonathan lost the 2015 election. Buhari became president, and one of his very first acts was to terminate the contract with STTEP, the same mercenaries who were driving Boko Haram back. His government claimed Nigeria would handle its own security. Within months, Boko Haram regained lost territory. The group evolved more sophisticated, more brutal, and more funded.
And maybe you missed something. For those of you who missed last week presentation, go back and watch it. It was, look, Nigeria, look, the Nigerian army is not in control of Nigeria. It was Ono Buhari again. Not Buhari, Buhari, not Tinubu, because it's the same government with Tinubu that came in. It was Ono Buhari, right? That when you heard that when Mohammed Buhari came in, he suspended the military that was helping, right? The foreign missionary that was helping Jonathan Goodluck to fight Boko Haram. What Buhari did, Buhari came in and dissolved that and said, we will take our own military, right? What happened here? Those of you that missed last week, Buhari trained the military service of the Nigerian state to the US. Dear God. We read it. You saw the article. Those of you that may say, go there, I think I posted that article. If you stay there, just go and read it. Buhari trained the Nigerian military service that's supposed to fight for Nigeria over to the US. The Nigerian government military is not in possession of Nigeria. Look, I don't care how you want to say I'm stupid, I'm this. That's your business. Say it. The Nigerian army is not in how to call it, possession of the Nigerian military. Muhammadu Buhari turned it over to the US.
Meanwhile, Obama's administration celebrated Buhari's victory as a win for democracy. But it was Nigerians who paid the price. Tens of thousands were killed in renewed attacks. Thousands of soldiers died. Millions were displaced again. What the US and APC called change became a decade of endless bloodshed. That's not partnership, that's complicity. For years, APC leaders actively lobbied for US intervention against Jonathan, even calling for his arrest abroad over alleged corruption and human rights abuses. They painted him as weak and incapable of stopping the killings, while secretly ensuring that he lacked the tools to fight back. And that's the true origin of Nigeria's endless war on terror, a war deliberately prolonged for politics. But when Donald Trump entered the White House in 2017, things began to change. He didn't follow Obama's playbook. Trump reviewed the arms restrictions and approved the sale of 12 A-29 Super Tucano aircraft, precision attack planes that Jonathan had once requested but was denied. It was Trump who finally reversed those years of diplomatic sabotage. After reviewing intelligence briefings, evidence from faith leaders, aid groups, and US intelligence pointed to a pattern. Security failures were not merely incompetence. Powerful actors were looking away or enabling the violence. On that basis, Trump went further. He designated Nigeria as a country of particular concern under the International Religious Freedom Act, officially recognizing the persecution of Christians in Nigeria as a matter of global urgency and unlocking tools like targeted sanctions, export restrictions, and visa bans. But that changed again when Joe Biden took office. One of his earliest foreign policy decisions was to remove Nigeria from that same list, despite the fact that attacks on Christians had worsened and thousands of civilians were still being massacred across the Middle Belt and Kaduna. Under Biden, the US returned to a familiar pattern: silence, diplomacy, and excuses. Now, as Trump re-enters the global stage and speaks out again against the killings in Nigeria, the same networks that once sabotaged Jonathan are at work trying to discredit him. They twist facts, omit timelines, and use selective memory to manipulate public opinion. They repeat that America once refused to sell arms to Nigeria, without ever mentioning that it was Obama, their political ally, who orchestrated it, not Trump.
All right. So you see the game, right? You see the game that is being played. Now, let me show 2 videos and then we'll go, because I won't play the other rest because I gotta go somewhere, but we'll play some of them next time. Let me show a video here. The way these people play the game, right? Let me show you something. Oh, you know what? Let me make it 3. Let's do this. I will just allow them play. I'm not going to speak, so that let it just play. All right. So you see the game these people play, right? Look right here. This is Emmanuel Macron, and this is the G20 summit that they had in South Africa or so. See Emmanuel Macron on his knee, begging. Now, whatsoever they said down there, I don't know, right? But when Emmanuel Macron left his seat, when he wake up, you're going to see the reaction from Emmanuel Macron. It was something he said to South Africa here. And I believe South Africa, Ramaphosa agreed to him. So when he wake up, he felt released, like, oh my God, thank you. Thank you. He finally agreed to it. These people know without Africa, they cannot survive. But again, yeah, like I keep saying this, right? I don't blame these people. I blame the African leader who don't know what Africa wants. Look, I'm not saying, right? I'm not saying Africa should cut the US off. Africa should cut Europe off. That's not my stand. My stand here is, before you look up to another person's household, make sure your household is well fed. Make sure your household is good. Make sure everything is good. You are lacking nothing. I'm not saying, oh, we should cut our US or we should cut. No. Let Africa set her priority first, and African first. Black people first. Period. And then we can go ahead and give aid to other people. Look, Africa, give aid. Give aid. Look, Africa should give aid to America. Africa should give aid to Europe. Africa should give aid to France. Yes, we should do that. But it shouldn't be the other way around. Get your resources, your mineral resources to them. Make them rich. Then take some and come and give it to you as aid. Why we can do it and make ourselves rich and give it to them as aid? That is my position.
Calls for a global framework that promotes value addition resources, supports local beneficiation, and ensures that communities hosting these resources are not left behind. As we advance through green and digital transitions, we must ensure that progress is not technologically driven but people-centered. This hope is the anchor that makes this year inclusive and sustainable. This hope is the foundation of inclusive development, ensuring that every person has the opportunity to contribute to and share in the nation's progress. In Nigeria, Nigeria calls for a global framework that promotes value.
So, did you see the expression on Emmanuel Macron's face? So, maybe you did not hear something, right? But I play this video over and over. Emmanuel Macron spoke to Ramaphosa. He wanted to see Ramaphosa for something. So, at some point, he even told Ramaphosa, before I leave, like, I really want to see you. I really want, because look, you see, they came to the African continent, and this was in South Africa, the G20, they came. So now you see how he got on his knee to beg. But again, Ramaphosa, please, I know maybe you are a Christian. You know the part of the Bible in Isaiah that say, be careful with them. Their words are smooth like oil, but war is in their heart. Their words are smooth like butter, but sword is in their hand. Be careful. What was said down there by Emmanuel Macron was not about no diplomatic, because he knelt down on his, no, he did not kneel down because he wanted to kneel down. That's a technique of surviving. He's trying to survive. So he will do everything to get at the place he wants to get.
They say we are too many, that Africans' population is a threat, that black babies are the problem the world must fix. So they bring solutions hidden in seeds, GMOs in disguise, genocide on a plate. They come with smiling faces and science in their briefcases, saying, we are here to help you feed your future. But what future do they mean when they replace our farms with factories, our grains with chemicals, our harvest with hunger? They say Africa must reduce, she's growing too fast. But who told you population is a cause, when in truth it is power? Africa, what they fear is not our numbers, they fear our awakening. And so they strike. They send whispers into our hills. Suddenly, the farmer is afraid. Bandits roam where yams once grew. Gunshots silence the songs of the soil. Who arm these men? Who funds the fear? Who benefits when the farm is empty? They talk of food insecurity, yet they are the ones securing our food in their laboratory. Frankenstein tomatoes, clone chicken, sterile corn that can't grow again. They want to be our saviors after burning our barns and banishing our seeds. They force feed us lab lies while banning our ancestors' wisdom. And our government, they bow, they sign, they smile for the cameras because greed is the only crop they water. Africa, can't you see? This is not aid, it's invasion. It is not science, it is sabotage. They want us to forget the taste of free food so they can feed us dependency. Remember the words of Kwame Nkrumah, except a man can feed himself is not yet fully independent. But listen, Africa, your soil still remembers. Your seeds still wait in silence. Your land is not cursed, only hijacked. So rise, reclaim your fields, defend your seeds. Let no suit in falling boardroom decide your dinner. Because the war is not just about the herdsmen in the bush. The war is about who controls the food on your plate. Because the one that feeds you controls your future. Africa, listen to the words of your town crier. Wisdom Africa is the principal thing.
So we're just playing video now, okay? I'm not going to talk. We're just playing video so that you can catch what's going on in the thing.
Do you know why we have terrorism? We have terrorism because America started it. Iran was a thriving country back in the 1950s. They had a democratic leader who nationalized his oil fields and said that the oil was supposed to be for their people in Iran. America didn't like it. So America and the British got together and assassinated the democratically elected leader. America, the United States, has assassinated more leaders than anyone in the world. So Israel learned from them. Israel definitely learned from the United States of America. So as to being a terrorist, just remember, United States is the only country in the world, that unleashed an atomic bomb on human beings. So don't let these politicians and that piece of shit Trump tell you anything. The United States is responsible for the upheaval and all of the crap that's going on in the Middle East. All because of oil.
The truth remains that some of us have already known this, what these guys are made of, but the majority out there don't know what US, their leaders, are made of. All these things you are hearing globally, they were the founders. United. This lady is from United States. My joy be say many of them know the truth.
If you care about your own country, Libya is probably one of the best examples. Omar Gaddafi cared about Libyans, and he cared about Africans in general. And what happened to him? Well, he was assassinated because he dared to defy the central banking system and rely on gold in his own oil. The same thing is true in Venezuela today. When you become nationalistic and you want to use your resources to enrich your people, you get killed. You get overthrown. And how do they do that? They do it with these Gladio networks and the intelligence agencies, and they deploy them. We did it in the Congo to Lumumba. He simply, he wanted to use the uranium. At the time, the Congo was the world's largest source of uranium. Okay, it's post-World War II, early 1960s. They have the first time they're free from colonial empire in Belgium, and they elect him as prime minister. Well, he came to the United States and said, hey, I want to give you all of our uranium, as was the deal with Belgium, but I want to use the part that had gone to the Belgium government to enrich our own people. And the president at the time, Eisenhower, would not meet with him. The vice president, Richard Nixon, would not meet with him. He met with the Secretary of State and they told him no. They said, you cannot cut out Belgium. So you're not going to have any money to build a school. You're not going to have any money to build your hospitals. You're going to get the same arrangement that you got before, which was basically nothing. And Patrice Lumumba said, forget it. Then I'm not going to honor that deal. And I'm sure the Soviet Union would be interested in uranium. And what happened to him next? He was murdered. He was murdered by Operation Gladio elements that Otto Skorzeny controlled, who was a Nazi, everyone knows that name, under Reinhard Gehlen's German intelligence, the BND. And so every prime minister, president that stands up for their country is a target from this international syndicate that wants to control all the world's resources. If you care about
becoming a super. If you wanted to stop Africa from becoming a superpower, you wouldn't have to invent a new strategy. The blueprint has already been written, tested, and perfected over centuries. You'd start by making sure Africa never unites. The easiest way to do that is by keeping people divided along ethnic, tribal, and religious lines. If they ever start working together, remind them of past grievances. Stoke old wounds, fund separatist movements, keep border disputes unresolved. Make sure every time they take one step forward, they take 2 steps back because they're too busy fighting each other. You'd install leaders who serve foreign interests, not their people. Find the most corrupt, the most easily manipulated, the ones who crave wealth and status more than progress. Offer them power in exchange for loyalty. If a leader rises who actually cares about Africa, get rid of them. Assassinate them if necessary. But if that's too messy, just destabilize their government and back a coup. If they talk about nationalizing resources, make an example out of them. If they try to unite Africa, take them out before the idea spreads. You'd keep Africa economically weak by making sure it never industrializes. Let them export raw materials, but never process them themselves. Control the mines, the oil fields, the rare earth minerals. Keep them selling cheap and buying expensive. If a country tries to break free and build its own industries, from becoming a super. If you wanted to stop Africa from becoming a superpower, you wouldn't have to invent a new strategy. The blueprint.
If you want to keep Africa from uniting, from becoming powerful, from taking her position, and the blueprint have already been laid, and that's the blueprint that they are going by. So that blueprint, again, we have said here time with our numbers, that blueprint was laid in the 1884 Berlin Conference. Some of you who are confused, right? That blueprint that she's talking about was laid in 1884 Berlin Conference, and that blueprint is today currently in Germany, to be precise, Berlin, Germany, when they had that 1884 Berlin Conference to divide Africa among themselves. However, that was not the time they went to Africa. They was already in Africa back in the 1800. They was there already, right? 1884 Berlin Conference was just a day that they decided that, you know what, today, let's meet so that we can demarcate Africa so that U.S. will stay in Liberia, will not come Africa, will not come Sierra Leone, will not come Guinea, right? You will stay in Liberia, that's your place. Today, Africans, France will not come from Africans to come to Liberia. You stay in Africa, you will stay in Guinea, right? You will not come to Sierra Leone. And then England too will stay in Sierra Leone. So that's what they did. So it was just a day set aside to divide Africa, right? But they were already there. All right. So that blueprint was there already. And then what it said in our meeting, they said their descendants who are alive today will make sure, right? Africa and her descendants, we are alive today, the African, the black people that are alive today will never gain their full potential. They will never unite. So so that's the blueprint, and it's there. So you heard her, right? Instead of continue to divide and conquer, support leaders in power who will care to build wealth, right? And power. They won't care about progress for the life of their people. And that's what happened in Africa. And then leaders who want progress for their people, the West make sure they remove you. They sponsor opposition leader, they sponsor propaganda, they make sure they remove you. So that's the blueprint already there laid down, and that's what they're going by. Let's continue.
When the white men colonized Africa, first there was slavery. When slavery ended, colonization basically took off, right? So first we're going to steal your people.
Right.
Once we done making them work for free, we're going to come into Africa and make y'all work for free, and rob you. Now, there was a revolution to push the white man out. Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana led the way, with Ghana in 1957 becoming the first African country to gain independence post-colonialism. And post-colonialism is basically a non-emotional word, to describe a very inhumane thing, such as the rape, exploitation, and dehumanization of people in their indigenous habitat. See, the white man puts words on things to kill the emotion behind it. Somebody say slavery. Well, slavery, that don't sound too bad. Colonialism, no. But when you see what they did,
then that's what makes the difference.
That's what makes the difference. So they pushed the white man out. But on the way out the door, the white man started sabotaging all the infrastructure that he built in Africa. So guess what he was doing? Blowing up his own buildings, poisoning the water.
I leave nothing.
I'm going to leave nothing. Since y'all kicking me out, I'm going to leave everything that I built, because I didn't build it for y'all. I built it for me to exploit y'all. Y'all been robbing us for a century. You done stole diamonds, gold, coltan, oil, animals, plants. What I got to pay? If you don't want me to destroy this any further, sign the contract that you're going to pay me for all this infrastructure. That's how Africa got put into debt. When people say, if the white man robbed us blind, why do we owe him? All African nations are in debt to European nations right now. This very moment. Everyone. You say, how can that be when they done robbed us of people? And they robbed us of resources? How can we owe y'all? Because on the way out the door, they were destroying.
Pay me or kill.
Pay me, I'm going to destroy your whole infrastructure. Reluctantly, we had no option. So we signed. And then the white man said, on top of paying me for this infrastructure, if you need any money to build up your new independent country, you need schools, you need hospitals, you need jobs, you need factory, you need medicine, paper, pens, pencils, whatever you need, I'm going to loan you the money. But here's 3 things you're going to do. Number 1, I'm going to charge you 1,000% interest. If you ever want to know why the more money Africa get, the worse off Africa is because the interest on the loan, you can't pay it back in a million years.
It's too deep.
It's too deep to pay back. So basically, you're not purchasing a loan. You're purchasing slavery. Every time an African nation accepts a loan from abroad, they are in essence giving up a part of their freedom. So you know what they're going to do? They're going to set the terms in such a way that every time you come back for more money, all you're doing is giving me more control over your decision-making power. So the first thing they do is they're going to charge you 1,000% interest. This is why with every loan, Africa gets in worse condition. With every loan, Africa gets in worse condition. Second thing they're going to do, they got something called structural adjustment programs. You know what that means? That means we're going to dictate how you're going to run your economy. And the first thing we're going to dictate is you must not prohibit any European businesses from coming into your country to operate their businesses and sell to your people. Why is that a problem? Because it means I cannot protect any homegrown national industries. Let me give you an example. You in Ghana, right? In Ghana, let's say you got palm oil. Senegal, you got salt.
Right.
Zambia, you got tea. Nigeria, you got coffee. Right? So you might say, I got my own coffee. I don't need Maxwell House. I got my own tea. I don't need Lipton. I got my own salt. I don't need Morton's. I got my own chicken. I don't need Purdue. White man said, the terms of this loan mean you must have a free market economy. When you hear the word free market economy, you know what that means?
Mean whoever had the most money win.
Exactly. So guess what? I can't compete with Morton salt. They can grow it quicker. They can refine it. They can sell it cheap. You follow? So now you got a national company owned by the government competing in their own country with a foreign company selling the same thing
with government backing.
So when you go to Africa, you say, why are Africans in Senegal buying Morton salt from America when Senegal is known for its salt? Because when Morton comes to Senegal, they can sell the native salt industry lower price, quicker, more, and they put you out of business. That's why you got African country that grow tea, importing tea from Europe.
Crazy.
You got your own chicken. You importing chicken from America with all these chickens you got. Why? Because you can't compete with them. They sabotage your economy. Now you dependent on them. You see that? Now you dependent. And then the third thing they do, so you got your structural adjustment, which basically sabotage your economy. 1,000% interest, sabotage your freedom. And then they got this new thing that came in under Obama. It was already there, but Obama made it stronger, and that is population control planning. Oh, yes, brother. Oh, yes. You know what this means? You want this money? You're going to do 3 things. Number 1, birth control abortion and hysterectomy must be made freely available to the women. Oh, yes, you're going to push birth control. Yes, yes, you're going to push contraceptives. Yes, yes, you're going to push hysterectomy. In fact, you're going to pay black women to get their insides taken. Oh, yes. When I was in South Africa, I'll never forget it, 2005, my first time there. I've been there many times since. On the way to the airport, there was a big billboard. It said, hysterectomies, $500 US, we will pay you. Did you hear that? You don't have to pay us. We're going to give you $500 US to get your reproductive system taken out. And guess what? Because of the economy that has been created in Africa by the white man, a lot of our sisters go for it because economically it's so stressful to live. African poverty is nothing like black American poverty.
Right.
Go to the worst hood in America, the worst hood. It can't compete with a ghetto in Johannesburg, a ghetto in Ghana, a ghetto in Sierra Leone. Brother, it don't even begin to compete with it.
Right.
You see, you're talking about poverty on a whole new level.
Right.
So you got a young black girl struggling, already got 2 kids.
Yeah.
White man saying, I'll give you $500 if you let me take out your reproductives. But what he ain't going to tell you is when he take out your reproductives, he probably going to put some cancer or some AIDS in you.
Shit, yeah.
You see?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and then the LBGT, that's why that's being pushed in Africa too, under Obama. Remember, it was Barack Obama who went to the president of Uganda and Liberia, and I think Tanzania. And I was in Liberia around that time that crisis kicked, and Obama threatened many African nations. Those are just 3 that come to mind because those presidents stood up and said, you don't come here and tell us how to run our culture. We've been around this is the president of Uganda. I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah.
He said, we've been around 2 million years.
Yeah.
Who are you to come to my country and tell me that I have to make it legal for a man to marry a man? We are African. That is not how we build families. If y'all want to do that in Europe or America, you do that in Europe and America.
Right.
And Obama said, if you don't make gay marriage legal, we will cut off your aid. Here's the question. Why does an American president give a damn as to whether or not an African country legalizes homosexuality? Because through the legalization of homosexuality, you control the black population growth rate. Homosexuality is birth control. Lesbianism is birth control. And it is a more powerful form of birth control than any pill or any contraceptive. This is an extermination. When the
become a problem when it's black nations doing it. Why does unity only become a problem when it's black nations doing it? Share this because the answer says everything. Every time Africa and the Caribbean take one step toward each other, suddenly the world becomes nervous. Suddenly there are concerns. Suddenly there are warnings. Suddenly experts appear out of nowhere to explain why we shouldn't work together. But when Europe unites, historic, when Asia unites, strategic, when black nations unite, destabilizing. If you're not following this page, you're doing exactly what they want, forgetting that division was the plan from the beginning. Caribbean versus African, island versus island, language versus language, shade versus shade. Because divided people stay manageable. But united people, that's a political earthquake. Ask yourself, why do they celebrate their own unions and fear ours? Why is our cooperation treated like rebellion? Why is black power always analyzed, monitored, or punished, never encouraged? And the real question, if unity is so dangerous, who exactly is it dangerous to? Comment 1 if black unity is strength.
We should do not discuss, negotiate with the poverty mentality as if we are begging. We cannot be a beggar in the international community when we have resources. We must have leverage and even bring them to the point they can beg us. It's possible It's possible. It depends how you are approaching it. We should not discuss, negotiate with the poverty mentality as if we are begging. We cannot be a beggar in the international community when we have resources. We must have leverage and even bring them to the point they can beg us. It's possible. It's possible. It depends how you are approaching it. We should.
Into the continent.
Let's watch this video, guys.
Africa doesn't produce weapons. Who is bringing these weapons into the continent? Africa is a very tribal social society. People know each other. For these people to turn against each other, you need foreign instigators. You need factors from outside the continent. And of course, we know why. Africa is very rich. It has resources, mines, gold, iron, cobalt, everything. And Western corporations, in collaboration with the American and European armies, are working hard to keep Africa down by funding conflicts, by producing a narrative that shows Africans as savages, as simple-minded, as violent, when for decades, African leaders like Gaddafi of Libya, Nasser of Egypt, Lumumba of the Congo, Nyerere of Tanzania, Mandela of South Africa, Nkrumah of Ghana, and many others came up with beautiful projects, very practical ways of actually improving the conditions, but they were never allowed to carry on they were killed, they were murdered, they were bombarded.
Have you ever asked yourself this question? You see United Kingdom, you see France, these two countries, they have been the ones giving them those weapons to be.
Listen, every president, from when I joined the CIA, George H.W. Bush had just become president. The Israelis asked us to bomb Iran. Every single president. No matter who the prime minister of Israel happens to be, you got to bomb Iran. You got to bomb Iran. You got to bomb Iran. And every single president said, no, we're not bombing Iran. We would never bomb Iran. Because our position was that would be the start of World War III. The reason, though, I'm told, that Donald Trump decided to bomb Iran was that the Israelis said, for the first time, if you don't bomb Iran to take out these deep bunkers, we're going to use nuclear weapons. And they had never threatened that before. And so Trump said, bombing Iran might actually save us from the start of World War III if it keeps the Israelis from using nuclear weapons.
Do you see why there's a problem with that statement, John?
Yeah.
Because they've never admitted that they've had them.
That's right.
So you're telling me that they just admitted to the President of the United States that they have nuclear weapons and we still do not have them in the IAEA treaty?
So you heard that basically the U.S. continue to support Asia because the Asia is U.S. largest. Is where the United States, how can I put this? It's where the U.S., when it comes to weapons, right, is the largest recipient, the largest recipient of medical weapons, right? As I would put it, medical weapons, finances, war. Asia is the largest recipient of United States support. So are they telling us? Because that guy is a former military guy that spoke. Asia then saying they should bomb Iran, bomb Iran, bomb Iran. The US should bomb Iran, bomb Iran, bomb Iran. all the other presidents been saying, no, if we bomb Iran, that's going to be World War III. So that in itself, you know, the U.S. is afraid. There's a fear there. Now, there's another part. Nobody know Israel have a nuclear weapon. So you heard a boy asking the question, so does that mean they have a nuclear weapon and they're not telling us? So this time around, you heard the former Marine guy or Army guy or CIA guy telling that boy, this time around, Israel came and said, hey, listen, you guys have to bomb Iran. That the U.S. have to bomb Iran. If the U.S. don't do it, Asia was going to use a nuclear weapon on the U.S. And that's how, under Donald Trump, they bombed Iran. And you heard the boss saying, so does that mean they have nuclear? But they've been telling us they don't have it. Okay. Now, I'm playing these videos not in any way to say America is wrong. And I've been saying it time with our numbers. America had to survive. I mean, if you have something that is treasure to you, you think you're just going to let it go? You're going to fight. If something is treasure to you, it doesn't matter how you got it. Hey, God. It doesn't matter how you got it. What matter is, it is a treasure to you. Do you think Europe, do you think all the nations that colonized and enslaved Africans, they care? It does not matter to them. Because it is what happened that put them in a position they are in today. So it does not matter how you got it. No. What matter is the important to you. How you treasure it. That's what matters. So that is why they can never apologize for colonization, for slavery, and for things they've been doing on the African continent and in black nations. That's why they say they can't apologize. Because the place it took them and the place it brought them. So it does not matter how they got there, how they got it. What matters is how you treasure it. And it's because they treasure it, they're not going to let it go like that. Now, why am I saying this? African people, black people, African leaders. The solutions to Africa is listening to the young folks. Now, when I say young folks, I mean the young Pan-Africanists. Listen to them. I mean, look at history. And you see the patterns that continue to repeat against us, but the same people. How long will we continue to do this and we continue to blame the people? No, sometimes we have to blame ourselves now. And that's why we as Pan-Africanists that understand, even as much as we blame, we point fingers, the truth is we are the problem. Let's play the last videos and then we'll call it for a day.
Listen to this. I never thought I'd see the day where the United States was so closely allied with another country that invaded another great power. And what happened in the Ukraine war is that Ukraine invaded Russia.
You reversed it. You said Ukraine invaded Russia.
Yes, Ukraine invaded Russia, the Kursk offensive in August of 2024. And we and the British supported it. During the Cold War, it was unthinkable that we would side with a country that invaded the Soviet Union. It was a very different Europe back then. NATO was on one side, and the Warsaw Pact was the military alliance on the other side. And we thought all the time about how to prevent a war. And then the Soviets would leave, and the United States decides 1994 that he's going to expand NATO eastward. The Russians are adamantly opposed. In 1999, we have the first wave of expansion. Poland, Hungary, the Czech Republic come in. So the Russians scream bloody murder. They do not want NATO expansion. We just shove it down their throat. Why do we shove it down their throat? because they're weak. Same thing happens in 2004. This is when the Baltic states, Slovenia, Slovakia, Bulgaria, and Romania come in. The Russians, again, scream bloody murder. We shove it down their throat. And then in 2008, we say that Ukraine and Georgia will become part of NATO. The Russians don't like it. They say it would be a threat to us, especially with American forces and British forces and NATO forces on our territory. But we do not back off because we think the Russians are weak and we can shove it down their throat again. Are you arguing that NATO would invade Mother Russia? We say no threat. This is not going to happen. And what happened, the war in Georgia in August 2008, and then, of course, the Ukraine war, February of 2022. And Ukraine, which is joined at the hip with the United States and Britain, invaded Russia, the Kursk offensive in August of 2024. Furthermore, Ukraine struck at one of the three legs of the strategic nuclear triad. Russia has bombers, its land-based ICBMs, and three, its sea-launched ballistic missiles. Well, Ukraine attacked the strategic nuclear bombers of Russia, and we and the British supported it. Nobody would have dreamed of doing that in the Cold War. That's a prescription for disaster. If you live next door to Godzilla, you have to be very careful that you don't anger Godzilla. Because if you don't, you'll end up with a Ukraine that's destroyed, which is the one you now have.
All right. Now, as you listen to the video, right, the narrator kept saying, weak, 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 weak. Now, Africans, Africa, because people see that we are weak, we are not united, we are divided. That's why they don't take us serious. That's why they do what they want to do. Yes, that's why they don't take us serious. They do what they want to do. And that's why they bring out any narrative. And then because we are weak, some of our weak media and channel in Africa, our news media in Africa, take it and they run with it. Without even them doing their own research, without even them trying to understand that, listen, this narrative, if I push this narrative, it's going to even devour more and more because we are weak. And because we are weak, that's why we continue to be in this perpetual condition. We fail to unite. We fail to come together. We fail to build. We fail to stand on our own. Today, most African nations are seeing Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso as their enemy. Meanwhile, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso are not Africa's enemy. But I bet most of those leaders in Africa, they see Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso as their enemy. I bet Tinubu is seeing Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso as their enemy. I bet Madabio is seeing Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso as enemy. Even Liberia, I bet. Most of these African nations, they see those three nations as their enemy. That's why when they're doing things, they don't coordinate with those people. They don't call those people. Because they believe in this Western agenda. They are friends to these Western nations, so they see their own brothers and sisters as enemy. Because we are weak. And that's why people will walk on us, people will mock us. A whole continent, a whole continent, a whole continent. We are weak. And then some kind of tiny nation from somewhere will mock Africa, a continent. A tiny nation from somewhere will come and mock Africa because we are weak. And because we are weak, that's why they say we cannot be part of the United Nations. We cannot have a permanent seat because we are weak. People that have permanent seat in the United Nations are powerful nations. Because they are powerful, they are not weak. And you saw what the narrator said. And I'm glad these things are coming out. You saw what he said. It was not Russia that invaded Ukraine or invaded Ukraine. It was Ukraine that invaded Russia. Because they went there and threw the first bomb Through who? NATO. Through who? The police of the war. Thinking that Russia was still weak. Not only Russia was building. Look, Africa, let us be frank to ourselves here. Let us unite. Let us build. Imagine, oh my God, imagine Africa being the one to produce our own weapon. And which, of course, we can do it. We have the brain. We have the brain. Imagine Africa being the one to protect herself, which of course we can do it. We have the population, we have the folks, we have the young folks. We are the only continent in the world with the highest, youngest population in the world. Yes, we can. And we have the resources. Yes, we can. African leaders, what are you doing? Unite the damn continent. But yet Nigeria there took her army and gave it to the US. The US has control services of the Nigerian army. Go do your research. Some of you will come and talk stupidness here, but it is the truth. Buhari gave it to the US. Nigeria does not have control over her army. That's why Nigeria can fight. That's why she can't buy a weapon. She can't get a weapon nowhere because it is the United States that have control over it. So if the US say, don't sell arms and ammunition to Nigeria, that's it. Because not Tinubu, but Muhammad Buhari gave that service to the US. So the US has services of Nigeria. You don't have control of your army. You don't have the army does not have control of Nigeria. That's why you can't fight. That's why you can't buy arms. Because Buhari gave that service to the US. Stupidity. Anyway, again, this is not about the US. I don't blame the US. I support the US in what she do. If I mean, I would do the same thing. Come on now, I beg here. I'm on the US side. I support the US for what she's doing. The US got to survive. It is African people who don't know how to survive, who don't want to survive. They want to be stupid. The US treasure what she have. You think she's going to let it go? No, come on now. Come on. We can, as much as we want to point finger at the US is right in what she's doing. She got to survive. It is we African people are stupid. See you folks next week.
The white power structure, because that's all we have in America. And the white power structure today is just as much interested in perpetuating slavery as the white power structure was 100 years ago. Only now they use modern methods of doing so. And realizing that the black people in this country are waking up and becoming filled with a desire to be looked upon as men and as human beings. The white power structure to slow down that struggle for freedom and human dignity